Chapter 1333. However, Yun Luofeng had met many such gentle and beautiful women over the years. Compared to such women, he preferred the domineering Hong Luan. At least Hong Luan was very real, and would never use her pitiful appearance to attract the attention of others. Xiachu knelt down in front of Hong Luan without saying a word. Her eyes were filled with tears as she pleaded. "Miss Hong Luan, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken young Master Ling Chun away. Actually, the person young Master Ling Chun wants to marry is you. Please give him a chance. I beg you." At this moment there were many people walking to and fro outside the box. Now that they heard Xiachu's words, they could not help but stop in their tracks and look over. Hong Luan's expression gradually became cold. "To be honest, I pitied you before. After all, you were also harmed by Ling Chun, and he couldn't marry you. But now I won't pity you anymore. Isn't there a saying that goes, a pitiful person must have a hateful side?" Xiachu was stunned. She bit her lips. "Miss Hong Luan, young Master Ling Chun still has you in his heart. If you don't want to see me, I can disappear and never appear in front of young Master Ling Chun again. I just beg you to give him a chance." Hong Luan narrowed her eyes, and anger gradually appeared in her beautiful eyes. Just as she was about to explode in anger, a hand suddenly landed on her back. An evil voice sounded next to her ear. "I said before, I'll get rid of these two people for you." Hong Luan was stunned. She looked at Yun Luofeng and chose to retreat to the back. Xiachu raised her head, and her gaze slowly fell on the handsome young man's face. In that instant, her heart seemed to have been violently pounded, and her face was dyed red. No wonder Hong Luan had become so disdainful of Ling Chun. It turned out that she had unknowingly seduced such a handsome young man. It was such a pity that such a handsome young man was with a shrew like Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin, and looked at the kneeling Xiachu with a smile that did not seem like a smile. "You want Hong Luan to marry Ling Chun. Is it because of your own selfishness? Or is it because of Ling Chun?" Xiachu's gaze was sincere and sincere. "Everything I do is for young Master Ling Chun. Furthermore, as long as Miss Hong Luan is willing to marry him, I can leave this place without asking for anything. I will never see him again." "All right, since that's the case, you can leave." Yun Luofeng nodded and said seriously. Xiachu's expression changed on the spot. She clenched her fists tightly, restraining the anger and indignation in her heart. Why? Just because his family was inferior to Hong Luan, he had to suffer such grievances? Hong Luan could only reincarnate. If she was the young miss of the continent Lord Manor, then Hong Luan would definitely be inferior to her in every aspect. "Young master, I also want to leave young Master Ling Chun, but..." Xiachu loosened his fist, took out a handkerchief and wiped the tears from his eyes. "Young Master Ling Chun doesn't want to let me go." The smile on Yun Luofeng's face became more and more demonic. She looked at the crowd. "Everyone, I'm sure you all heard her clearly. She kept saying that Hong Luan wouldn't give Ling Chun a chance. Now that she has given him a chance, she rejected it herself. You can't blame Hong Luan for this." Xiachu looked down, his eyes filled with hatred. She was just casually saying that because she knew that Hong Luan would think that Ling Chun's body was not clean, and would definitely refuse. Moreover, she didn't really want to ask Hong Luan to marry Ling Chun. She just wanted Ling Chun to know her determination. This way, even if the continent lord objected, Ling Chun would not hesitate to let her marry him. Chapter 1334. However, she never thought that this young man would agree on Hong Luan's behalf. The onlookers also reacted to Yun Luofeng's words, and immediately turned to Xiachu. "Miss, with your status, you're not good enough for young Master Ling Chun. Why don't you just leave?" "That's right, this young master is right. Just then, you said that in order to help them, you wanted to leave young Master Ling Chun. Now that you've been given the chance, why aren't you willing to leave? Tsk, do you even need to think about it?" She never planned to leave from the start, and was just putting on an act. How could someone like her compare to Miss Hong Luan? If this was anywhere else, perhaps some people would think that Xiachu was pitiful and would stand on her side. However, this was the Eastern continent. Although Hong Luan was domineering, she was also very protective. As long as it was a citizen of the Eastern continent, no matter who was in trouble, she would not be stingy. Because of this, she was loved and respected by the citizens of the Eastern continent. As such, Xiachu wanted to guide the public opinion but found the wrong place. Why? Xiachu stood up from the ground. She staggered as tears flowed down her pale face. Just because I'm not powerful enough I have to be bullied? I don't even have the right to be with my lover? Is it wrong to fall in love with someone? Yun Luofeng crossed his arms and looked at Xiachu. Firstly, you said that you wanted to leave and no one forced you to. Secondly, since you love Ling Chan so deeply, it's enough for you to be with him forever. Why did you come to harass Hong Luan? Aren't you asking for it? Xiachu's body trembled. I just wanted to help young Master Ling Chan. Alright, I'll give you another chance. If you can kneel here for 5 days and 5 nights, I might consider giving Hong Luan to him. Yun Luofeng held Hong Luan's hand and walked towards the door. Let's go. Our mood has been ruined, and we don't have the mood to stay. When she walked to Xiachu's side, she stopped and said in a low voice, I won't let anyone hurt Hong Luan, so if you want to die, I don't mind killing you. After saying this, the young man in white passed through the crowd and disappeared from Xiachu's sight. On the bustling street, Hong Luan struggled free from Yun Luofeng's grasp. She stopped in her tracks and raised her head to look at him. Yun Luofeng just now, thank you very much. If it were her, she would have definitely attacked Xiachu after being provoked. But Yun Luofeng was different. Even if she did not make a move, Xiachu would be badly injured. This caused Xiachu, who originally had the upper hand, to fall into a disadvantageous position. Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng turned his head and looked at the woman in red behind him. In order to enter the Northern Continent's Continent Lord's mansion, Xiachu will definitely kneel in a restaurant for 5 days and 5 nights. When that time comes, get someone to watch over her. Also, be prepared to be blamed by Ling Chan. Hong Luan smiled. I used to think highly of Ling Chan, but later on I realized that I was blind. That scum's words can no longer hurt me, and... She paused for a moment before continuing. You did the right thing. Ling Chan loves Xiachu. If I force Xiachu to kneel for 5 days and 5 nights, Ling Chan will definitely become furious. From now on, I can also get rid of his pestering. Hong Luan sighed. Her voice was a little sad. They used to be childhood sweethearts. Why did things have to escalate to such an extent? Chapter 1335. Hong Luan, Yun Luofeng thought for a moment, then said, Ling Chan came to find you today, but he left because of an urgent matter. I asked around, it was said that Xiachu's old illness had relapsed, so he left in a hurry. However, I saw Xiachu's body today, and her body is so weak because she took a medicinal herb called luotsang flower. Luotsang flower? Hong Luan was stunned. What is this luotsang flower? A medicinal herb that can fake a weak body. In other words, in order to get Ling Chan to go back, she purposely took the luotsang flower to fake her illness. Other than that, there is nothing wrong with her body. So, I want to ask, when you and Ling Chan met, did Xiachu often use this excuse to get him back? Hong Luan was silent for a long time, then nodded. Indeed, a few years ago, Ling Chan accidentally saved Xiachu, and the two of them had feelings for each other. Xiachu got pregnant before marriage, and Ling Chan wanted to take her as a concubine, but the Continent Lord's mansion did not agree, and even put Ling Chan under house arrest, causing Xiachu to miscarry in grief. Since then she has been sick and weak. Because of this, Ling Chan feels so guilty towards her, always thinking that he harmed her. After saying this, she raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. So, you said that there is nothing wrong with her body, is that true? I'm very sure that there is nothing wrong with her body. Yun Luofeng's words caused Hong Luan's heart to tremble. She, who had pitied Xiachu, had now placed her sympathy on Ling Chan. So, Ling Chan is just an idiot and was fooled around by a woman. This woman is really scheming. She knew that she had lost her child, and could not use the child to enter the Northern Continent Prefecture, so she pretended to be sick to make Ling Chan feel guilty. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin. Hong Luan, this luotsang flower is not a very magical medicinal herb, but did the Continent Lord's mansion not have any doctors to diagnose her? Hong Luan shook her head. At that time, Ling Chan felt very guilty, and wanted to let the Continent Lord's mansion doctors treat her, but Xiachu desperately refused. She said that her status was low, and that she was not worthy of those noble doctors treating her. Moreover, if she used the power of the Continent Lord's mansion, The continent lord would definitely not allow her to enter the northern continent. Because of this, Ling Chan was incredibly moved, and he wanted to give Xia Chu all of his love. I finally understand why Ling Chan didn't choose you, Yun Luofeng said as he blinked. It's because you won't act pitiful like Xia Chu, nor will you say things that other people like to hear. However, one day, you'll meet someone who appreciates your straightforward personality. Because Hong Luan was too straightforward, she was at a disadvantage in the contest with Xia Chu. However, Yun Luofeng liked her personality. At least when he was with her, he was very relaxed. You're right, Hong Luan raised her eyebrows and smiled. Do you think that I, Hong Luan, can't find an outstanding man? Who is Ling Chan? Why should I compromise for him? He likes hypocritical women like Xia Chu, so I'll fulfill his wish. Yun Luofeng, let's go. There's someone I don't like in this restaurant. Let's go somewhere else. A rose-like smile blossomed on Hong Luan's face. She held Yun Luofeng's hand tightly and walked quickly towards another restaurant. After entering the restaurant, Yun Luofeng finally understood what it meant to be heroic. Chapter 1336. In the Eastern Continent, Hong Luan had reserved a private room in every restaurant. This was so that she wouldn't have to use other people's items. When all of the dishes were served, they looked, smelled, and tasted great. Hong Luan looked at Yun Luofeng and raised her eyebrows. You don't like this restaurant's food? Yun Luofeng put a mouthful in his mouth and shook his head. No, I just miss someone's cooking. After leaving Yun Xiao, she still couldn't get used to the food outside. Of course, if it was anyone else after tasting Yun Xiao's cooking, they probably wouldn't be able to eat it either. It was like heaven and earth. That's right, Yun Luofeng, where did Hu Li go? Yun Luofeng put down his chopsticks. He's not far from me, so he won't appear by my side for now. Before she found out who Wu was, she wouldn't let him near her. As for Hu Li, she was sent to keep an eye on Wu. You suspect that child's identity, so you sent Hu Li to keep an eye on him. Aren't you afraid that Hu Li will be in danger? Hong Luan asked curiously. Yun Luofeng smiled. If there's really something wrong with this child, then his target is me. As such, he won't go and harm Hu Li. This was why he didn't worry about Hu Li being alone with him. By the time Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan returned to the Continent Lord's residence, it was already quite late. Just as the two of them stepped through the door, a figure rushed towards them like a madman. Hong Luan. Ling Chan let out a roar of anger, and quickly rushed in front of Hong Luan. His tightly clenched fists made cracking sounds, and his eyes were bloodshot. Why did you do this? Why did you punish Chuer like this? She only came to find you because of me. How could you be so cruel to a kind-hearted woman like her? Ling Chan was so angry that his body trembled. I want you to beg Chuer to get up. Otherwise, when I force her to get up, she'll threaten me with suicide. She even said that without your order, she won't dare to get up. Come with me to beg her to get up. He didn't use please, but beg. Just as Ling Chan grabbed Hong Luan's arm and was about to take her away, Hong Luan's gaze became cold, and she flung his hand away. My Fenger said that if she knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Fenger would consider giving me to you. However, I didn't force her to kneel. This is her own choice and has nothing to do with me. At that time, Yun Luofeng had only said that he would consider it. It was not an absolute sentence. Even if Xia Chu knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Yun Luofeng still wouldn't hand the Hong Luan over to Ling Chan. Ling Chan raised his hand and viciously slapped Hong Luan. Just as his hand was about to land on Hong Luan's face, Hong Luan raised her hand and grabbed the man's wrist tightly. Ling Chan, our friendship ends here. I don't owe you anything. Hong Luan suddenly exerted force, causing Ling Chan to take a few steps back. He gripped his wrist, which had been bruised by Hong Luan's grip, and raised his eyes to look at the gradually disappearing red dress. He didn't know why, but when he saw the woman's heartless face, his heart felt empty in an instant. Even Ling Chan didn't know where this feeling came from. Eldest Mississippi. Suddenly, a guard walked out and cupped his fists towards Hong Luan. He respectfully said, Eldest Miss, the Continent Lord has invited you and young Master Yun to make a trip. Father is looking for me? Hong Luan was stunned. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng and asked, If you want to go with me, then we'll go now. If you're not willing, then no one can force you. Chapter 1337. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Since the continent lord wanted her to go with Hong Luan, there was no harm in her going. Hong Luan did not say much, but she had already made up her mind. If her father really made things difficult for Yun Luofeng, she would stand by her father's side regardless of the consequences. This was the promise she had made to her before. A gentleman's word was worth 1,000 gold, and she could not go back on it. The atmosphere in the study was solemn. A middle-aged man stood with his hands behind his back facing the door. His aura was imposing and unapproachable. This was the second time Yun Luofeng had seen Continent Lord Hong Ling, the person who commanded the winds and clouds in the East Continent. Hong Ling seemed to have sensed their arrival, and slowly turned around. At this moment she was no longer as aggressive as before, and her expression was one of helplessness as she sighed heavily. Luan, are you really not willing to marry Ling Chan? When Hong Luan first returned to the Continent Lord's mansion, he was so angry that he could not help but berate her. Now that he had calmed down in order to not force his daughter to leave again, he could only suppress his anger and ask helplessly. Hearing this, Hong Luan nodded heavily. Yes, I will not marry Ling Chan. Luan, in the future the 7 continents will undergo great changes. If you marry Ling Chan and unite the 2 continents, you will be able to survive in the 7 continents. Hong Ling's expression gradually became serious. Otherwise, the East Continent will be destroyed. Hong Luan sneered. Father, if you want the East Continent to survive the great changes in the 7 continents in the future, you will have to marry your daughter? If it were someone else it would be fine. But I, Hong Luan, will never use marriage to seek peace. Great changes in the 7 continents? When Yun Luofeng heard these words, he secretly paid attention, but he still stood by Hong Luan without saying a word. Luan, Hong Ling's eyes were filled with anger. You are only a woman. No matter how talented you are, how can you support the entire East Continent with your own strength? But I only have one daughter, you. If you don't marry Ling Chan, how can I die in peace? Hong Luan did not expect her father to be so stubborn, and her expression became colder. I said with my own strength I don't need the North Continent's help. One day, I'll be able to make the Eastern Continent stand at the top of the 7 continents with my own strength. Forget it. This peerless expert, whose name shook the world, was now completely helpless against his daughter, who was in her rebellious phase. He knew his daughter's temper. Once she set her mind on something, she would not turn back even if she died. Luan, if you don't suffer, you won't turn back. Even I can't do anything to you. Hong Ling smiled bitterly. Even though he was very strict with his daughter, she was his only daughter after all. Was he going to put her on the bridal sedan? I won't bother with your business anymore. Also, you have to deal with the matter between you and Ling Chan on your own. Also, the Northern Continent's Continent Lord will personally visit you in a few days to cancel the engagement. Have you thought of a way to reject him? Tactfully refuse? Why should I refuse? Hong Luan sneered. I won't marry. Even if the Emperor of Heaven comes, I won't marry. Hong Ling shook her head helplessly. Only then did she look at Yun Luofeng. At this moment, perhaps because Yun Luofeng found the conversation between the father and daughter boring, she casually pulled a chair and sat down. Her body leaned lazily against the back of the chair, and her evil eyes seemed to look down on the world. Chapter 1338. However, Yun Luofeng's arrogant attitude displeased Hong Ling, and her face darkened. When they first met, because Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan didn't stay for long, he didn't get a good look at Yun Luofeng. Now, he could carefully scan Yun Luofeng from head to toe. However, a jade pendant on the youth's waist fell into his eyes. The word June was clearly engraved on the jade pendant, causing his pupils to shrink. You're from the June family of Spirit State? The June family of Spirit State? Yun Luofeng froze. Her gaze gradually fell on the jade pendant on her body. Her eyes filled with suspicion. This jade pendant was given to her by June Fengling. Could there be a problem? What is the June family of Spirit State? Yun Luofeng's evil eyes twitched as he asked. The Lord of Spirit State is surnamed June. Hong Ling stared at Yun Luofeng. Now tell me, where did you get this jade pendant? Yun Luofeng caressed the jade pendant and faintly raised his lips. It's something my mother has carried with her since she was young. Is there a problem? Jun Fengling was Yun Zhao's mother, so naturally she was also her mother. She couldn't say that it was a gift from her mother-in-law, so she called Jun Fengling mother. Hong Ling's pupils shrank, but returned to normal in the blink of an eye. If you want to know the origin of this jade pendant, you can go to the Jun family of spirit state. You will naturally find the answers you want there. In addition, the Jun family has offended many people. I advise you to take off this jade pendant to avoid being discovered by your enemies. Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed, and he pondered for a moment. The Jun family of spirit state? It seemed that after she found Yun Xiao, she had to make a trip to spirit state. Find an answer. After Yun Luofeng left the study, Hong Luan seemed to see that her father had something to say, so she stayed behind and asked in a low voice, "Father, what is the matter with the Jun family that you speak of?" Hong Ling sighed. Many years ago, the old master of the Jun family offended the former continent lord of the spirit state. As a result, he was hunted by countless masters of the spirit state. At that time, his wife was killed by the former continent lord. In order to protect his infant daughter's life, the old master of the Jun family had no choice but to give her to an old friend. Later, the old man of the Jun family went back to seek revenge on the former continent lord, and annihilated the entire continent lord's mansion. That's why he became the continent lord of spirit state. However, he never moved away from the Jun family. Therefore, when people mention the continent lord's mansion, they refer to it as the Jun family of spirit state. But he has already become the rightful continent lord. All these years, the old man still missed his late wife and never remarried. He even searched everywhere for his daughter's whereabouts. However, not to mention his daughter, even his old friend had disappeared without a trace. So the missing daughter of the Jun family is the biggest sore in his heart. And now the Jun family's jade pendant has appeared in Yun Luofeng's hands. Could it be that her mother is the daughter of old man Jun? Hong Luan was a little surprised. She had not expected Yun Luofeng to have such an identity. She was silent for a moment and then asked, "Are you sure that Yun Luofeng's mother is a daughter of the Jun family? That jade pendant couldn't have come from someone else in the Jun family?" Hong Ling shook her head. The word Jun on this jade pendant was carved with a special technique, especially since this jade pendant can withstand an attack from a strong master. Do you think that an ordinary person of the Jun family could have such a jade pendant? Hong Luan blinked her eyes. "Father, should we inform the Jun family about this?" Chapter 1339. In fact, Hong Luan didn't want to inform the Jun family just to give Yun Luofeng a guarantee. More importantly, she was very fond of Grandpa Jun. The old man's wife had been dead for so many years, but he had always kept to his heart and never married. After he took his revenge, he wholeheartedly searched for his daughter, and he had not given up even now. How could she not be moved by this spirit? There is no doubt that this jade pendant came from old man Jun. However, whether or not Yun Luofeng's mother is the young miss of the Jun family still needs to be verified. Moreover, after old man Jun handed over the Jun family to his disciple, he left the spirit state. His whereabouts are still a mystery. Finding him is easier said than done. Hong Ling shook her head and sighed helplessly. The old man of the Jun family had always been traveling among the continents. Even the Jun family didn't know where he was. Moreover, he only had his own disciple's daughter with him. Looking for him was like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Father, no matter what, we must inform the Jun family. The Jun family will surely have a way to find Grandpa Jun." Hong Luan's expression was firm. If Yun Luofeng had the Jun family as his backing, then he would be able to walk unhindered in the 7 continents. Who would dare to bully and humiliate her? All right. Hong Ling's eyes flashed. "Hong Luan, you should build a good relationship with Yun Luofeng. If he really is the daughter of the Jun family's eldest daughter, there's no harm in marrying him." Hong Ling became more and more excited as she spoke. The spirit state was ranked near the top of the 7 continents. If they could ally with the Jun family, it would be much better than the northern continent. However, before he could restrain his excitement, Hong Luan sprayed a basin of cold water at him. "First, my relationship with Yun Luofeng has always been pretty good. Secondly, the Jun family is the Jun family, and Yun Luofeng is Yun Luofeng. It doesn't matter if she's a member of the June family or not. I'm different from you. You place too much importance on power. In my eyes, power is not as important as friendship. If you chase after power too much, then how much can you achieve in this life? After being taught a lesson by her own daughter, Hong Ling's face turned green and white. Anger surged in her heart. Father, we are cultivators and cultivators should do as they please. Too many distracting thoughts will only make it difficult for us to move forward. If you insist on making me become like you, then I don't want the position of continent lord. I believe that with my strength, I can also step onto the peak of the continent. Hong Luan had long disliked Hong Ling's pursuit of fame and fortune. From her point of view, cultivation was about following one's heart. Regardless of whether Yun Luofeng was a member of the Jun family or not, she would always consider him as a friend. It would never change. If there was a reason why she valued Yun Luofeng so much, it was probably because of the battle in the inn. This battle caused her to feel a sense of kinship with Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, after interacting with him for the past few days, she understood that they were the same kind of people. Furthermore, in that battle, she and Yun Luofeng had fought to a draw, and her goal was to defeat her one day. Luanayu. Hong Ling slammed the table and stood up, glaring at her angrily. Hong Luan remained unmoved as she smiled. Father, I won't use any of the Jun family's power for you if Yun Luofeng is a member of the Jun family. But she's the only person I can call a friend if she isn't a member of the Jun family. The people she had met in the past were all people who tried to curry favor with her for the sake of the power of the Continent Lord's mansion. Only Yun Luofeng could become her friend. Chapter 1340. Hong Ling was even more furious. She slammed her hand on the table, splitting it into two. However, Hong Luan turned around and left, not caring about Hong Ling's anger. Rebellious. This girl is rebellious. She dared to talk to her father like that, and she even dared to teach him a lesson. Hong Ling was furious. How could she stand at the peak of the continent without power? How could she have gotten to this point with the strength of one person? How could she have become so powerful if the continent lord hadn't provided her with the conditions to cultivate? Hong Ling became angrier the more he thought about it. He never believed that a person at the bottom could rely on their own strength to reach the peak. He also didn't believe that without the nurturing of the family, she would have much strength. A golden phoenix could never climb out of a mountain village. A phoenix could only be created with countless treasures. Forget it, I don't care about you anymore. You can do whatever you want. I risked my life to ask for a marriage alliance with the northern continent, and I also asked for the Jun family's help. Wasn't it all for you? I've done so much, but you don't appreciate it at all. Your stubbornness is exactly like your mother's. I owe you and your mother in this life. Hong Luan let out a heavy sigh and sat down. At this moment, this powerful person was like a helpless father facing his rebellious daughter. He could only let her make her life choices. Hong Luan looked very tired after she left the study. She had just opened the door when she saw the young man in white sitting in her room, sipping tea. Yun Luofeng? Hong Luan was startled. Why are you in my room? Yun Luofeng put down his teacup and looked up at Hong Luan. What do you mean by the great changes of the 7 continents? Hong Luan walked in and poured herself a cup of tea. She took a sip before putting it down. The great changes of the 7 continents happened once 1,000 years ago. Hong Luan looked at Yun Luofeng. Do you know that there is a terrifying existence suppressed under the 7 continents? These existences only awaken once every 1,000 years. When they awaken, it will be a disaster for the entire mainland. However, no one knows when they will awaken. My father is afraid that I won't be able to deal with these existences when he is no longer around. That's why he wants to form a marriage alliance with the northern continent, hoping to borrow the power of the northern continent to help me. Yun Luofeng frowned deeply. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing. Actually, I know that my father is doing this for my own good. However, I am not willing to listen to his orders. I do not believe that I will not be able to fight against those existences with my strength. Hong Luan laughed and explained. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. It seems like there isn't just this conflict between you and your father. Hong Luan was stunned. She shrugged helplessly. You found out? Because my mother was killed by him, I have never had a good impression of him since I was young. Your mother. That's right. My mother has an unyielding temperament, and her temper is even hotter than mine. She's also very powerful. Back then, she fought for the Eastern continent with my father's help. However, in order to make his powerful subordinates loyal to him forever and never betray him, my father decided to take their daughter as a concubine. How could a person like my mother allow her man to have multiple wives? She left my father in a fit of anger. Later, in order to prove to my father that he does not need to rely on a marriage alliance to consolidate his power, she forcefully broke through, causing her body to explode and her soul to be destroyed. Chapter 1341. If a person died, he or she could be reborn, but if the soul was destroyed, it was the same as disappearing from the world. Hong Luan laughed coldly. I was still young back then, and did not remember my mother very well. But she was my mother after all, how could I not hate her? Sometimes I really did not want her to be my father. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea, and continued to listen to Hong Luan. Perhaps it was retribution. All these years my father had countless concubines but none of them had children. Hong Luan's smile became even colder. Yun Luofeng, tell me, how can men be so heartless? My mother fought for this world with him. After he obtained this world, he wanted to take a concubine in the blink of an eye. Is power and influence really that important to a man? At this moment, a handsome yet cold face appeared in Yun Luofeng's mind, and his lips curled into a smile. If he loved you, he would give up the world for you. If he did not love you in his eyes, you are not as important as the world. That year, when he first met Yun Xiao, she was just a trash with a bad reputation. But he was a high and mighty ghost emperor. For her, he was willing to lower his status and become the man behind her back. If she asked, this man would definitely conquer the world for her. In this life with a husband like this, what else could she ask for? Yun Luofeng, I just told my father that if he forced me again, I would give up the Continent Lord's mansion. Actually, I was just scaring him. I am his only daughter. If not the Continent Lord's mansion, who else would he give it to? Although I do not care about power, this Continent Lord's mansion, I must take it. Hong Luan's gaze became resolute. Because the East Continent belongs to my mother, I will not let anyone take advantage of it. What a joke. How could she give up the East Continent? For her mother, she would not give up the East Continent. I believe in your strength. Yun Luofeng smiled slightly. With Hong Luan's power, she could indeed achieve great things in the future. But who knew would there be a man who could move her heart again? But Ling Chan was no longer her choice. Mississippi, a servant pushed open the door and hurriedly reported. Young Master Ling Chan is still at the door, unwilling to leave. Don't worry about him, Hong Luan sneered. If he likes to wait, let him wait. I want to see how long he can wait. According to Ling Chen's personality, he'll definitely leave within 6 hours. Hong Luan seemed to have overestimated Ling Chan. Let alone 6 hours, he didn't even wait for 2 hours before hurrying to the restaurant to persuade Xia Chu. However, Xia Chu had already made up his mind that he would not get up until the 5th day. Because of this, Ling Chen's hatred towards Hong Luan increased by a few levels. As for the emptiness in his heart, it had long since been thrown to the back of his mind. Hong Luan, just you wait. Today you've treated Xia Chu this way. In the future I'll make you pay 1,000 times over, he said hatefully. At this moment Ling Chan, whose eyes were filled with flames of fury, didn't notice the sinister and pleased look in Xia Chu's eyes. Hong Luan, your character is too overbearing and unreasonable, and men will never like a woman like you. As long as I use some tricks, even the peerless white-robed young man next to you will become mine. At this moment an arrogant and confident face appeared in Xia Chu's mind, and a look of infatuation appeared in her eyes. This was the first time she had seen such a peerless young man. Chapter 1342. The incredibly handsome Ling Chan in her eyes, compared to her, was like the clouds and mud. That young man was like a celestial being. Even a single glance from him was enough to make one's heart flutter. It was a pity that the young man's family was not as good as Ling Chen's. It was because of this that she had suppressed the impulse in her heart that day. However, if she could spend a night with the young man, she would be satisfied. As for Yun Luofeng's protection of Hong Luan and disdain towards her, it was not very important to her. No man could resist a woman who was as gentle as water. It was a pity that Xia Chu did not know that Yun Luofeng was a woman. It was because she did not know that she did something that she would regret for the rest of her life. 5 days later. The crowd in the bustling restaurant had long since dispersed. Ling Chen's heart ached as he helped Xiachu up. He gritted his teeth. Chu, don't worry. After I marry Hong Luan, I'll teach her a lesson for you. Xiachu lowered her head. Her fine black hair fell down, covering her pale face. Young Master Ling Chen, I've already completed the task that Miss Hong Luan gave me. I'll go with you to see her now. Also, I want to talk to that young Master Yuan. I hope that he'll keep his promise and give Miss Hong Luan to you. No. Ling Chen hurriedly grabbed Xiachu's hand. How can I let you go and see that guy? You're so pretty. What if he has ill intentions and bullies you? Xiachu bitterly smiled. Young master, if he really wants to do something that's worse than an animal to me, then wouldn't it be better to let Miss Hong Luan know who he is? I won't agree. Leave this matter to me. Chua, you don't have to worry about it. Ling Chen frowned. Xiachu was his daughter. How could he allow his woman to see a stranger? As such, he would never agree. Young master, if you go and find him, you're both love rivals. How could he give Miss Hong Luan to you? Xiachu shook her head. Actually, what he said that day was that if I knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, he'd consider giving Hong Luan to me. He didn't say that he'd definitely give her up. Ling Chen's heart trembled. Then why did you have to suffer for 5 days? Young master, I won't give up even if there's a sliver of hope for you. Xiachu bit his lips and continued. Besides, it's best if I persuade young Master Yun to let go. However, you need to keep Hong Luan occupied during that period of time. Otherwise, with Hong Luan's temper, she will definitely not allow young Master Yun to do such a thing. Chewer. Ling Chen tightly hugged Xiachu. You've done so much for me. How could I have met such a kind and virtuous person? Xiachu buried her head in Ling Chen's chest, unable to see the expression in her eyes. You're the love of my life, and for you Chuer is willing to go to hell without fear. Xiachu raised her head, looking at Ling Chen with tears in her eyes. Don't worry, young master. Since Chuer has decided to follow you, I'll definitely keep myself pure for you. If that young man really wants to molest Chuer, Chuer won't let him get away with it. Ling Chen thought for a moment, then said, All right, then I'll send someone to protect you in secret. Xiachu's eyes flickered. Young master, don't let your leave get too close to me. Otherwise, he'll definitely find out. If he sees young master's men, Tai Pin won't let go of Miss Hong Luan. For young master, Chuer is willing to give it her all. Chapter 1343. Continent Lord's Mansion. In the West Court, just as Hong Luan was about to look for Yun Luofeng, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her, blocking her way. She frowned. Who let you in? Whenever Ling Chen thought about what Hong Luan had done to Xiachu, he would feel a surge of anger in his heart. However, when he thought about his purpose in coming to the Continent Lord's mansion, he suppressed his anger. Hong Luan, this time I'm not here to bother you, nor to cause trouble for you. I just want to have a talk with you. As for Xiachu, he had already sent people to follow him, so that brat would not be able to do anything to Xiachu. What do I have to talk to you about? Hong Luan coldly laughed, and turned to walk away from Ling Chen. Ling Chen hurriedly took 2 steps forward, continuing to block her way. Get out of my way. Hong Luan's expression was cold as she shouted. Ling Chen looked at Hong Luan. Hong Luan, before, you wouldn't have insulted me, nor would you have hurt an innocent girl out of jealousy. You've changed, you've become incredibly cruel and merciless. Is all of this because of that kid surnamed Yun? Hearing this, Hong Luan laughed, her laughter full of mockery. That's because you don't know me well enough. Ling Chen, I'll give you a chance, get out of my Continent Lord's mansion. From today onwards we'll be like strangers, and we'll have nothing to do with each other. Hong Luan. Seeing that Hong Luan was about to turn and leave, Ling Chen anxiously shouted. You really don't care about our past friendship. Hong Luan stopped in her tracks, a trace of doubt in her heart. If it was the Ling Chen in the past, he would definitely be furious after what she had done to Xiachu. But now, he did not seem to be angry at all. Instead, it seemed that he did not want her to leave. Why? Mississippi. A servant girl hurriedly ran over from the side and whispered something into Hong Luan's ear. After hearing this, Hong Luan's eyes shone. and she looked at Ling Chan strangely. Originally, Ling Chan thought that Hong Wan would not stay, but after hearing what the servant said, she was not in a hurry to leave. The smile on her face was sinister, and her eyes were full of smiles. "You said you wanted to talk to me?" Hong Wan looked at Ling Chan with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. "All right, I'll talk to you now." Seeing Hong Wan's change, Ling Chan felt a bit uneasy, but he didn't know why. Could it be that Hong Wan knew that Chu Er had gone to find Yun Luofeng? No, this was impossible. Based on Hong Wan's personality, if she knew that another woman had gone to her man's place, she would definitely not be able to control herself and rush over aggressively. Therefore, perhaps Hong Wan was really willing to have a chat with him. Ling Chan smiled. As long as he could stall her, Chuer would have a way to make Yun Luofeng give up on Hong Wan. In the room, the girl sat on a chair. Her ears twitched slightly and she heard footsteps coming from outside the door. The door was pushed open by a lily-white hand, and not long after, a gentle and beautiful woman in a green scholarly dress appeared in her room. At this moment, the woman's eyes were filled with tears. Her gaze was weak and helpless as she gazed at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and asked indifferently, "Was it Ling Chan who brought you in?" Xia Chu bit her lip. "Young master left me alone for Miss Hong Wan. I accidentally came here, and didn't know that this was young master Yun's residence. Please forgive me, young master." Chapter 1344. Ling Chen went to see Hong Luan? Yun Luofeng asked with raised brows. Xia Chu nodded gently. The two of them were playing hand in hand. "I felt that I was unnecessary, so I left." Logically speaking, when a man hears that his woman was playing hand in hand with another man, he would definitely be filled with jealousy. However, Yun Luofeng continued to gracefully play with the teacup in his hand, a careless smile on his peerless face. Xia Chu's eyes flashed. Yun Luofeng did not seem to care about Hong Wan at all. Did that mean that their relationship was very shallow? That she could enter at any time? After a long while, Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in his hand. "If there's nothing else, you may leave. Sir Yun." Suddenly, Xia Chu threw herself at Yun Luofeng. However, she did not throw herself into the young man's arms. Instead, she knelt in front of him. "Sir Yun, actually, from the first time I saw you, Chuer understood what it means to be a celestial being. Even though you were so cruel to Chuer, Chuer's heart has already fallen into your hands." Yun Luofeng lowered her brows and gently lifted Xia Chu's chin with her finger. She smiled faintly. "You mean you want to seduce me?" Xia Chu blushed and lowered her head. "Chuer is not as unreasonable as Miss Hong Wan. If I can serve you for a night, Chuer will be satisfied." Hong Wan was unreasonable? A fierce light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. She raised her leg and kicked Xia Chu away with a loud bang. Xia Chu slammed into the wall. She raised her startled eyes and stared at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. Faced with such a tender and sweet woman like her, he could actually be so cruel? In the beginning, Xia Chu had thought that Yun Luofeng was coveting the power of the Continent Lord's palace. That was why he was protecting Hong Luan in front of the public. After all, who would like an unreasonable woman like Hong Luan? However, she never expected that Yun Luofeng would attack her when Hong Luan was not around. Yun Luofeng's body leaned lazily against the back of the chair. She took out a handkerchief from her lapel and carefully wiped the finger that had lifted Xia Chu's chin. Her expression and actions made it seem as if Xia Chu was the germ that had contaminated her finger. "Since you don't accept me, don't blame me for being rude." Xia Chu's eyes flickered with a cold light. With a swoosh, she tore off the clothes covering her chest, revealing half of her breasts. She was filled with temptation. Then she purposely messed up her hair, slammed the door and shouted, "Help! Help! Someone is trying to molest me." Xia Chu's cries were very pitiful, and his pathetic appearance easily caused people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. The first to appear were the people Ling Chan had sent to protect Xia Chu. He had been told by Ling Chan that if Xia Chu cried out, he had to immediately appear in front of Xia Chu. Therefore, when he saw Xia Chu in such a sorry state, he flew into a rage. "Miss Xia Chu, don't worry. My young master will definitely seek justice for you." As he spoke, the people from the Continent Lord's mansion also heard the commotion and came over. The person walking at the front was impressively the travel-worn continent Lord Hong Ling. After Hong Ling, Hong Luan and Ling Chan also hurried over. As soon as Xiaochuan saw Ling Chan, he leapt into his arms and started to cry. Chuer, what happened? Did that bastard molest you? When Ling Chan saw Xiaochu, he tightly clenched his fists, his eyes spitting fire. Chapter 1345. Xiaochu was sobbing uncontrollably. Her hair was disheveled, making it impossible for people not to guess what had happened to her. Young master. Xiaochu finally stopped crying. She raised her tear-stained eyes. You have to get justice for Chuer. In other words, she was admitting that Yun Luofeng had humiliated her. Good, very good. Ling Chan tightly gritted his teeth, to the point that he could hear them chattering. Hong Wan, this is the man you found. He's a lecher, but not only is he lecherous, he even dared to look at Chuer's beauty. This kind of person is not good enough for my Chuer. Hong Wan smiled, playing with her hair. Do you think I'm prettier or Xiaochu? Yun Luofeng would look at Xiaochu's beauty? What a joke. She can't even compare to a finger of mine. Is she worth my Feng'er looking at? Everyone in the Continent Lord's residence looked at Ling Chan with hostility. If he dared to say that their young miss was not as beautiful as Xiaochu, they would definitely rush up and beat him half to death. Who cares if he's a young master of the northern continent? He can't bully the young miss. Ling Chan angrily said. Yes, you're beautiful, but you're too unruly and unreasonable. How can you compare to Chuer's gentleness? Moreover, men always look at the pot while eating from the bowl. Who can guarantee that he doesn't want to have multiple wives? After saying this, Ling Chan turned to look at the silent Hong Ling. Uncle Hong, you have to get justice for me. Hong Ling's stern gaze swept over the woman hiding in Ling Chen's arms, and he said in a stern voice, Who allowed this woman to enter the Continent Lord's residence? He did not answer Ling Chen's question, and instead questioned him. What kind of place is the Continent Lord's residence? Is it a place that a shady woman like her can enter? Hong Ling's eyes were filled with fire, and he said in a domineering voice, And you, Ling Chan, this Continent Lord allowed you to have concubines, but I didn't say that you could bring your concubines to bully this Continent Lord's daughter. As such, you can forget about calling me Uncle Hong. I don't have a nephew like you. Ling Chen's face alternated between green and white as he gnashed his teeth. Red. Continent's Lord wants to protect Yun Luofeng? Just based on this woman's words, you can conclude that Yun Luofeng humiliated her? I think this woman has ulterior motives. She can't bear to see my daughter happy, so she came to destroy this marriage. Hong Luan cast a strange glance at Hong Ling. According to his father's personality, he would definitely side with Ling Chan. After all, Ling Chan was the young master of the northern continent. As someone who valued power and influence, how could he reprimand Ling Chan because of his relationship with the various continents? It was also unreliable to say that it was because of the Jun family. He still wasn't sure if Yun Luofeng was the daughter of the Jun family's eldest daughter, so he couldn't make such a decision without being certain. Could it be that this fellow had changed? Young master. Xiaochu's tears flowed out like water, and his voice was filled with grief. I'm sorry, it's all Chuer's fault. If it wasn't for Chuer, this wouldn't have happened. Originally, Chuer came here to find Yun Luofeng with good intentions. I wanted him to help you and Miss Hong Luan, but who knew that Yun Luofeng was such a lecher? Xiaochu bit her lip and looked up at Ling Chan. However, Yun Luofeng is the future son-in-law of the Continent Lord's residence, so let's forget about it. I don't want to burden you, young master. Chapter 1346. Originally, Ling Chan had planned to leave first. There were too many people in the Continent Lord's mansion, and there was no benefit in fighting with these people. Now, hearing Xiaochu's pitiful words, the anger in his heart once again surged. Look, this was the woman he loved. How beautiful and kind. At a time like this, she was still thinking for him. How could he be weak? As a man, if he couldn't stand up for his woman, then what was the use of him? Chuer, you don't need to say anymore. Today, I will definitely get justice for you. Ling Chan gritted his teeth, then raised his head and yelled towards the door. Yun Luofeng, get out here. Just as he finished speaking, a person in white walked out of the door. The young man's white robes were like snow, and he was incomparably handsome like a god. Who's barking outside? Who's barking outside? The young man's voice was not loud, but rather calm. However, everyone could hear the arrogance in his voice. What did barking mean? Only the noise of a dog could be called barking. This brat dared to call him a dog? Ling Chan clenched his fists. Yun Luofeng, you even dare to molest my woman. You're simply too daring. Today no one can protect you. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, looking at the woman in Ling Chen's arms, and smiled. Do you think everyone has the same taste as you? You. Ling Chen was furious. Was this brat saying that his taste was too bad, and that he didn't like a woman like Xiachu? Young Master Yun. Hong Ling frowned, turning to look at Yun Luofeng. Can you tell me what happened? She came uninvited, and first told me that Hong Luan and Ling Chan were traveling hand in hand, and said that she wanted to spend the night with me. Then, I kicked her, but I don't know why, but she tore her clothes and ran out. Yun Luofeng said disapprovingly. Hong Luan's eyes widened and she angrily said, When did I travel hand in hand with you? Don't lie through your teeth. You're lying. Just as Hong Luan finished speaking, Xiachu's voice came from the side. Her body seemed to be trembling in anger as she glared at Yun Luofeng. My clothes were clearly torn by you. A lecher like you is completely unworthy of Miss Hong Luan. Miss Hong Luan was deceived by you. That's why she accepted you. One had to admit that this Xiachu was indeed very scheming. She knew what to say to make the people of the Continent Lord's mansion stand on the same side as her. Therefore, her words did not insult Hong Luan at all. Instead, she claimed that Hong Luan was deceived by Yun Luofeng. This way, the people from the Continent Lord's mansion would definitely join forces to deal with Yun Luofeng. Sure enough, everyone in the Continent Lord's mansion, aside from Hong Ling and her father, was glaring at Yun Luofeng. It was as if Yun Luofeng had done something that angered everyone. Poochie. In the end, Hong Luan couldn't help but laugh. Ling Chan, my servant girl told me that Xiachu sneaked into Yun Luofeng's room. Do you know why I didn't rush to stop him? Everyone looked at Hong Luan in confusion. Even Hong Ling did the same. He knew his daughter's personality very well. She was extremely impulsive. If she had known earlier, she would definitely have rushed over. Could it be that she wanted to test Yun Luofeng? But looking at her expression, it did not seem so. Chapter 1347. What do you mean? Ling Chen's face stiffened as he asked. Hong Luan's smile became wider and wider. That's because I want to know what Xiachu wants to do. Looks like I've really overestimated her. She can even play such childish tricks. She really proves the saying, a shameless person is invincible. Hong Luan, can't you see that Yun Luofeng is bullying her? Ling Chen's expression became even uglier. Everything in front of him proved that Xiachu had been humiliated. Did Hong Luan really trust this man? Hong Luan did not reply to Ling Chan, and walked over to Yun Luofeng's side. She smiled. Yun Luofeng, thank you for your help these past few days. Now my father is no longer forcing me to marry him. Our goal has been achieved. What? What did this mean? Everyone blinked in shock. What did she mean by their goal had been achieved? Just as everyone was filled with doubt, Hong Luan raised her hand and pulled on the hair tie that Yun Luofeng used to tie his hair. She gently pulled it off. Her fine black hair cascaded down her face, covering her beautiful face that could cause the downfall of a nation. Immediately, Yun Luofeng took out a bottle of medicine from who knows where, and wiped it across her throat. Her throat seemed to melt, and gradually disappeared. Dead silence. No one spoke and everyone stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Her Adam's apple disappeared? This young man was actually a woman? Hong Luan, my task is complete. You can take care of the rest yourself. Her voice was not as low and hoarse as before. Instead, it had the crispness of a young girl. Ling Chun was dumbfounded. Xiachu's face was deathly pale, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She stood in front of Ling Chan, and could not come back to her senses for a long time. Yun Luofeng, you're a woman? The first to come back to his senses was Hong Ling. He never thought that the son-in-law he had gradually accepted would be a young girl. Father, you've been forcing me to marry him. I don't want to marry Ling Chun, so I had Yun Luofeng disguise herself as a man. Hong Luan raised her eyebrows. Luckily, you've already agreed to let me decide my own marriage, so I don't need her to disguise herself as a man. Hong Ling took a deep breath. a strange look in her eyes. Fortunately, he hadn't informed the Jun family yet. Otherwise, how would the old man of the Jun family find him if his grandson became his granddaughter? Xiachu. Hong Luan smiled at Xiachu. Now you should understand why I did not stop you from entering Yun Luofeng's room. Now I want to see how you are going to clean up this mess. Chuer. Hearing this, Ling Chan came back to his senses and pushed Xiachu away as he asked with a pale face. Can you give me an explanation? Xiachu's lips trembled slightly, and despair gradually appeared on his face. She had never thought that Yun Luofeng would be a woman. Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng turned to Hong Luan. Is there a doctor in the Continent Lord's mansion? Hong Luan suddenly came to her senses. She immediately understood the meaning of Yun Luofeng's words. She said to Hong Ling, Father, find someone to examine Xiachu's body. Ling Chun, don't you think that Xiachu is kind and gentle? Was it because he felt guilty for what had happened before? Then I will expose all her true colors in front of you. Chapter 1348. Who asked me, Hong Luan, to be a vengeful person. Although Hong Ling did not know what Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan meant, she still ordered someone to bring a doctor over. Not long after, a white-haired doctor appeared in front of Hong Ling. Go and diagnose her body, Hong Ling said as she waved her hand. Yes, Continent Lord. The old man cupped his fists and slowly walked towards Xiachu. No, don't. Seeing the old man walking towards her, Xiachu's expression changed and she retreated. Don't come over. Hong Luan looked at Xiachu with a smile. I only heard that your body was weak because of a miscarriage, so I asked the doctor to diagnose your body. What do you mean by this? Is there some secret you can't tell others? At this moment, Xiachu finally understood that she would never be a match for Hong Luan in this lifetime. She looked at the old man walking closer and closer to her, and her eyes became more and more panicked. Her clothes were already soaked in sweat, and her face was full of despair. No matter how stupid Ling Chun was at this moment, he realized something. His expression became cold, and there was no trace of his previous warmth. Xiachu, let him examine her. Xiachu's body trembled. At this moment, the old man had already caught up with Xiachu. After a while he frowned and said, Young people nowadays really dare to eat anything. They even dare to eat a medicinal herb like the luotsang flower. Luotsang flower? Ling Chen's body suddenly froze. Although he was not a doctor, he had heard of the luotsang flower. It was said that the luotsang flower only had one effect, and that was to make a healthy person look like a sickly person. Because this kind of medicinal herb was very useful, very few medicine shops would sell it. However, if one used this luotsang flower frequently, it would really cause one's body to become incredibly weak. That was why the old man said such a thing. Young master. Xiachu's face flashed with anxiety, and she hurriedly grabbed Ling Chen's hand, saying, Young master, listen to me. I did this because, bang! Ling Chen fiercely swung Xiachu's hand. Xiachu's body took a few steps back, and heavily fell to the ground, her face ashen. Xiachu, have you been lying to me all this time? Ling Chen angrily roared out. No wonder every time I came to find Hong Luan, your old illness would relapse, and because of my guilt I would always return to your side. However, in the end it was all a scheme. Ling Chen's heart felt as if it had been pierced by a needle. The person he loved wholeheartedly was a scheming woman. In order to get him, she didn't even care about her own body. Furthermore, she had seduced Yun Luofeng first, and after being rejected, she had framed her. How could such a woman be the pure Xiachu in his heart? Young master. Xiachu choked with sobs. Everything I did was because I love you. Love me? Haha. Ling Chen wildly laughed. His laughter was filled with madness, and he staggered a bit as he bitterly said, I still don't know if any of the things you said to me were true. A few days ago, you told me that you definitely wouldn't change your mind. However, when you saw Yun Luofeng's peerless looks, you wanted to seduce him. Is that your promise to me? I didn't. Xiachu's eyes were filled with tears as she shook her head, her voice trembling. Chapter 1349. You didn't seduce her, did she seduce you? If Yun Luofeng wasn't a woman, perhaps I would believe you. It was because Yun Luofeng was a woman that he understood how terrifying Xiachu was. Xiachu raised his hand to cover his face, letting the tears flow through the gaps between his fingers. She understood that she would be abandoned by Ling Chun for the rest of her life. Marrying into the northern continent was an unattainable dream. Luaner. Ling Chun raised his head, looking at Hong Luan. His throat was choked, and he was filled with deep regret. I know I was wrong, can you give me another chance? No. Hong Luan rejected him without any hesitation. No, you're not such a heartless person. I know that you rejected me before because you were desperate. Ling Chun still held on to a glimmer of hope. Isn't there a saying that a prodigal who repents is more valuable than gold? Since I've already repented, why don't you give me another chance? Hong Luan crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked Ling Chun up and down. A hint of a smile gradually appeared in her domineering eyes. You had an affair with Xia Chu, you're covered in germs. Why do you think I should accept you? Sorry, I, Hong Luan, will never accept a prodigal who repents. To me, the mistakes I've made can never be erased. You no longer have a chance. The woman's heartless words caused Ling Chen's body to tremble. His body could no longer support itself, and he fell heavily to the ground. I'm tired. Yun Luofeng lazily stretched. I'm going to rest first, don't disturb me if there's nothing important. After saying this, she slammed the door shut. Hong Luan could deal with what happened next, she didn't need to ask. Men, escort Ling Chun out for this continent's lord. Hong Ling said through gritted teeth. From today onwards, he is not welcome in the continent lord's mansion. Also, whoever let them in today, arrest them and punish them according to the law. After saying this, Hong Ling looked at her daughter and said in a low voice, Come with me, I have something to say to you. Hong Luan raised her eyebrows and slowly followed behind Hong Ling. In the study, Hong Ling did not speak, and neither did Hong Luan. The atmosphere became tense, and there was a faint sense of oppression. Luan Hong Ling finally could not hold it in and slowly said, I know that all these years you've always blamed me for being too snobbish, causing you to lose your mother. Hong Luan coldly, as long as you know. This matter had already become a hurdle in her heart, and she had not forgotten about it for many years. This was already a hurdle in her heart, and she had not let it go for it. Karma. Even though this time Hong Ling did not side with Ling Chun, she still could not get rid of the prejudice in her heart. If it wasn't for him, his mother wouldn't have forcefully broken through in order to prove herself, and she wouldn't have exploded and died. All of this was because he married a concubine in order to consolidate his power. Hong Ling was not angered. He shook his head with a wry smile and said, That's because when I take in concubines, I will secretly give them a medicinal herb so that they will never be able to have children. Hong Luan was stunned. She raised her head in disbelief and looked at Hong Ling in astonishment. I know that my methods are too cruel and heartless, but I can give them a life of luxury and give them a supreme status. However, I will never let them have my children. Hong Ling pressed Hong Luan's shoulder tightly. Chapter 1350. In this world, only your mother is fit to give birth to my bloodline. This world was fought for by your mother and me. Apart from you, no one else can inherit it. If you really love my mother so deeply, why do you keep taking in concubines? Even after my mother's death, you won't let her rest in peace? Luaner, there are some things you don't understand. Hong Luan smiled bitterly. Your mother is already dead, and I can't let our efforts go to waste. Taking in concubines is a factor in the stability of the East Continent. Luaner, I've done so much for you. For me. Hong Luan laughed. You're taking in concubines for me and the East Continent? I, Hong Luan, have never believed in such tricks to rope in experts. I believe that I can subdue them with my power. If they betray me, I'll just kill them. Why would I need to resort to such tricks? Luaner, you'll never understand me if you're not in my shoes. You're now the only bloodline successor of the East Continent Master's mansion. Therefore, the concubines I've taken in will help you. If those people had their own children, they would definitely want to replace Hong Luan. As they had nothing, they could only protect Hong Luan. Only with her presence would the East Continent be immortal. Indeed, Hong Ling had put in a lot of effort for the sake of the East Continent and Hong Luan. However, he did not know that his actions had caused Hong Luan to feel a deep sense of disdain. Father, I still don't agree with your way of doing things. You can still manage the Continent Lord's mansion for many years. During this period, I will use my own strength to prove it to you. Hong Ling paused and then said, I will prove that my mother is not wrong. Hong Ling wanted to say something else, but Hong Luan had already turned around and left. She did not stop and disappeared from his sight in the blink of an eye. After leaving the study, Hong Luan turned around and looked at the open door behind her. She clenched her fists tightly and secretly made up her mind. Father, although you're a good father, you're not a good man. Therefore, I'll prove to you that everything you've done is wrong. She then turned around and walked towards the other side of the corridor. However, she did not go to her own room. Instead, she went to Yun Luofeng's room. Perhaps Yun Luofeng already knew that she would come. He had already poured a cup of tea and was waiting for her. After she appeared, he asked indifferently, You're here. Hong Luan raised her head and looked at the young girl in front of her. Her eyes were filled with determination. When the time comes, I will go with you. She knew that once Yun Luofeng received the news, he would leave the eastern continent. All right. Yun Luofeng only said this one word, but it made Hong Luan's face blossom into a beautiful smile. Yun Luofeng, what you said is correct. A man who truly loves you will hand over the entire world to you. A man who doesn't love you is not even worth the world in your eyes. This time I left not only to refine myself, but also to find a man who is truly willing to let go of the world for me. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and asked, What about the person I asked you to find? I came here to tell you about this. It is said that we already know the whereabouts of the Ghost Emperor. My people are still searching for the specific location. We should be able to get some news in a few days. The people of the eastern continent were scattered all over the continent. Thus, with the influence of the Continent Lord's mansion, it was much easier for them to find someone. Chapter 1351. Within the courtyard, the handsome man held a bottle of wine in his hand and poured it into his mouth. The wine flowed out of his mouth, but he did not seem to notice it at all. His lips curled into a bitter smile. The woman I love has been lying to me all this time. She's so cute, but I pushed her away. Ha ha. The man loudly laughed. His laughter was filled with madness, causing the servants standing next to him to become impatient. However, ever since their young master had returned from the Continent Lord's residence, he had been drinking away his worries. No matter what they said, he would not listen. Continent Lord. Suddenly, one of the servants' eyes lit up. She saw the middle-aged man rushing in from outside the courtyard. Just as she was about to call out to him, he raised his hand to stop her. Luan Air. The handsome man was still muttering, not seeing the person walking over. If I know I was wrong, can you give me another chance? A tall figure appeared in front of the man, blocking out the sunlight above his head. Ling Chen looked up in shock. After seeing the middle-aged man in front of him, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Father, why are you here? The middle-aged man's expression was dignified, and his eyes were sharp. I already know what happened between you and Hong Luan. Chun Air, come with me and apologize immediately. Apologize? Ling Chen bitterly laughed, looking quite embarrassed. She won't give me that chance. Hong Luan never wanted to see him again in this life. Servants, bring the young master some hangover soup, the middle-aged man ordered. He then turned to look at Ling Chen and his expression softened. If you come with me and apologize, you might still have a chance. Chance? These two words caused Ling Chen's eyes to light up. He looked up at the middle-aged man. Father, I really have a chance? That's right. However, apart from bringing you to apologize, I'm also going to hand Xiaochu over to Hong Luan. Will you feel bad for her? Hearing the name Hong Luan, Ling Chen gritted his teeth. That woman lied to me. I've already cut off all ties with her. If I can exchange her for Luan Air, I won't regret it. See, this is what a man is like. When he loves you, he's willing to give you the entire world. When he no longer loves you, you're nothing in his eyes. Good. The middle-aged man said coldly. Drink the hangover soup and set off with me immediately. A glimmer of hope appeared in Ling Chen's eyes. Even if Hong Luan were to reject him again, she would definitely give face to her father. In that case, he might really have a chance. East Continent. Continent Lord Mansion. Yun Luofeng had just entered a meditative state when 3 knocks came from the door. She slowly opened her eyes and said, Come in. The door was pushed open, and a person dressed in embroidered clothes walked in. Hong Ling looked at the young girl sitting on the bed, and her expression was a little awkward. Ahem, he coughed twice, cleared his throat and said, Miss Yun, I wonder if you're free right now? What's up? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked the middle-aged man standing in front of him. I've come to you to ask you for a favor. The middle-aged man glanced at Yun Luofeng and continued, Of course, I won't ask you to help me for free. I've heard that Miss Yun is also a doctor. As long as Miss Yun is willing to help me, you can take away any medicinal herbs in my continent lord's mansion. Chapter 1352. Yun Luofeng was able to tell Xiachu's symptoms at a glance, so he must be a doctor. The most tempting thing for doctors were herbs. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment. What do you want me to help you with? This. Hong Ling's expression became even more awkward. I know that Luaner has made up her mind to leave with you. I beg you, take good care of Luaner for me. That girl is too domineering, and she can't stand a grain of sand in her eyes. How can I not worry when she's away? Yun Luofeng stared straight at Hong Ling. After a long time she finally said, I will not accept your herbs. Miss Yun. Hong Ling's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to persuade her, the girl's indifferent voice sounded again. It was like a heavy hammer that hammered into his heart. You must believe in Hong Luan. With her abilities, she doesn't need anyone to take care of her. You must believe in Hong Luan. All of a sudden, Hong Ling felt as if she was suddenly enlightened, and her heart became clear. Miss Yun, I understand what you mean. Luaner is my daughter. I should believe in her abilities. Hong Ling cupped his fists. Thank you. With that he turned and left. After Hong Ling left, Yun Luofeng entered meditation again. She felt the thin barrier inside her body shake again. Delighted, she quickly entered the divine grimoire space. As Yun Luofeng's strength increased, the medicinal field inside the divine grimoire space had expanded several times. The sky was blue. Congratulations on breaking through, Master. Little Mo looked at Yun Luofeng with a smile and sincerely congratulated him. Little Mo, I'm going to break through. Don't let anyone disturb me. With that, she sat down cross-legged. Faint spirit energy circled around her body. Boom! A powerful force attacked the paper-thin barrier inside her body. But even though the barrier was as thin as paper, it was extremely difficult to break. Every time Yun Luofeng exerted force, it only shook a little. Break! Yun Luofeng shouted coldly. The spirit energy flowing inside her body turned into power and fiercely slammed against the barrier. Spirit energy swirled in the sky. Perhaps it was because the spirit energy was too strong. It formed a vortex above her head. It was a spectacular sight. Unfortunately, because Yun Luofeng was breaking through inside the divine grimoire space, other than the spirit beasts in the space, no one could see this. Boom! Boom boom boom. Unknowingly, the lightning had also revealed itself. It rumbled as if it was about to strike down. Little Mo looked a little anxious. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at Yun Luofeng worriedly. Master will definitely succeed. She can't possibly fail. Fire was the exact opposite of Little Mo. She did not say anything as she stared at Yun Luofeng with her bright eyes. His expression was one of trust. Yes, in this world, Yun Luofeng would never fail. Ha ha. The small tree giggled and raised its two arms, wanting to pounce on Yun Luofeng. Fortunately, Fire stopped him in time and said in a low voice, Don't disturb Master's breakthrough. The little tree pouted unhappily. I want a hug. Then the small tree struggled free from Fire's embrace and staggered in front of Yun Luofeng. He opened his mouth slightly, and in that instant, all the spiritual energy above Yun Luofeng's head was sucked into his mouth. Boom. Yun Luofeng had finally broken through that barrier, and his strength had entered a whole new level. Chapter 1353. Low-level Saint King. I've finally arrived. Once she became a Saint King, she would be considered to have truly stepped into the ranks of the strong. Little tree, why are you here? Yun Luofeng then discovered the chubby baby standing in front of him, his eyes filled with surprise. You seem to have grown up a lot. The small tree let out a satisfied burp and quickly threw itself into Yun Luofeng's arms. An innocent smile hung on its pink little face. Mother, I'm full, I want to pee. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Let Little Mo take you there. After saying this, she raised her head, but suddenly discovered that little Mo's body was enveloped by a group of halos, and his figure was gradually elongated. Little Mo? Yun Luofeng was startled. She released the little tree in her arms, and slowly walked towards little Mo. Suddenly, the halos that enveloped little Mo disappeared. The 6 or 7-year-old boy also disappeared, and what appeared in front of her was a tall, handsome, and slightly inexperienced youth. The youth had a head of black hair, a young smile on his face. He looked at his slender fingers, his eyes filled with joy. "You are little Mo?" Yun Luofeng's voice carried doubt, as if he did not believe that the person who appeared in front of him was that pink jade-carved talkative boy from before. However, the aura on this youth's body was clearly little Mo's. "Master," the youth raised his head, looking at Yun Luofeng. "I can explain this to you before Master Strength breaks through to Saint King. I can only meet you in my infant form, and I can't fight for you, nor can I stay in the outside world for a long time. However," the youth paused, then continued, "once you break through to Saint King, I will also undergo a huge change. This change in my body is only a part of it. The most important thing is, from now on, I can stay by your side forever and fight for you." "Oh," Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin, raising his eyebrows and smiling. "Why do I feel that the greatest use is that you can marry Little White? Master." The youth's eyes were filled with grief. That expression was a vivid representation of being bullied. "Master, look." Suddenly, Fire's shocked voice came from the front. Yun Luofeng looked up. On the grass in front of him, there was originally a cute and lively girl lying flat. However, at this moment, the girl who was originally unconscious gradually opened her eyes. Her black eyes were filled with confusion, like a lost lamb. "Xiaobai is awake?" Yun Luofeng's expression changed. There was no joy in his eyes. "Impossible. Whitey's soul hasn't fully recovered. The third fruit of soul had not been found yet. Why did she wake up at this time? Little Mo, what are the consequences of her awakening?" Before this, Yun Luofeng had used a silver needle to seal the girl's soul. Why did she wake up at this time? Little Mo's expression was ugly as well. The consequence of waking up early is mental incompetence. What caused it? I'm not sure. But I think the biggest possibility is that the storm created when you broke through affected her mind, causing her to wake up from her coma. The spiritual energy storm that was produced when one broke through to the Holy King realm was too great. As a result, the small tree could not help but absorb the remaining spiritual energy so that it would not go to waste. Therefore, it was not surprising that Xiaobai was affected. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Chapter 1354. I forgot. Little Mo had indeed forgotten, so he felt guilty. How could he forget such an important thing? Yun Luofeng frowned and quickly walked to Lin Ruobai's side. She squatted down and said gently, "Xiaobai, how is your body?" The girl was startled and asked word by word, "Who are you? Who are you?" Yun Luofeng's frown deepened as he turned to Little Mo. Did she lose her memory? I've already said that her soul has not recovered. Waking up prematurely will cause her mind to be incomplete, including losing all her memories. Little Mo lowered his head in shame. If not for him, perhaps Xiaobai would not have woken up prematurely. What's the solution? Yun Luofeng asked calmly. Find the third fruit of the soul. The third fruit of the soul? Looks like she needs to leave the East Continent early. Little Mo, since Xiaobai has woken up, the divine grimoire space will not let her stay here. So, I need you to leave and take care of Xiaobai. What? Little Mo shouted anxiously. You want me to take care of this witch? Yun Luofeng's gaze scared Little Mo. He shuddered and said pitifully, All right, I'll take care of her. It was my mistake that caused her to wake up prematurely. Just treat it as compensation. Yun Luofeng lowered his head and stared at the girl in front of him. Xiaobai, you must remember me. I am your master. Master? The young girl looked confused. She blinked her eyes and said, You're my master? My name is Xiaobai? Yes, your name is Lin Ruobai. Lin Ruobai. The young girl softly murmured these 3 words. Her face bloomed with a smile that was brighter than the sun. She looked innocent and pure. All right, my name is Lin Ruobai. For some reason, Little Mo's heart skipped a beat when he saw the girl's smile. She was different from the cruel and headstrong Lin Ruobai of the past. At this moment, she was innocent, adorable and pure. She was like a girl next door, pitiful. Little Mo hurriedly shook his head to get rid of the thoughts in his mind. Lin Ruobai was still Lin Ruobai. Even if her mind was incomplete, he would still not fall in love with her. Master. Lin Ruobai crawled up from the ground and hooked onto Yun Luofeng's arm. She looked up with her big bright eyes and said in a soft and sweet voice, "Xiaobai, I'm hungry." Acting cute is shameful. Little Mo snorted. He couldn't stand the sight of Lin Ruobai clinging to Yun Luofeng and acting cute. In comparison, he still felt that the willful Lin Ruobai from before was more likable. Xiaobai has been unconscious for so long, she should be hungry. Yun Luofeng patted Lin Ruobai's head. His eyes filled with love. "Let's go, we'll take her to eat something." "Master, I want to go as well." Fire curled her lips and looked at Yun Luofeng eagerly. Although the small tree didn't like eating those foods, it didn't want to stay in the divine grimoire space alone. Therefore, it had already used its limbs to cling onto Yun Luofeng, unwilling to let go. "All right, let's all go out then." Towards her own people, Yun Luofeng would never be heartless. Hence, she did not reject their request. Just as Yun Luofeng was leading everyone to eat, drink and have fun, the North Continent Lord Lingli led a group of people to the East Continent Lord Mansion. Chapter 1355. How could Hong Ling not know why these people had come? After sending someone to invite Hong Luan, he sat in the hall and waited. After a while, a middle-aged man walked out from the hall and appeared in front of Hong Ling. Hong Ling loudly laughed as she stood up. "Continent Lord Ling, you've finally come. You've come at the right time, I have something to announce." Without giving Ling Li a chance to speak, Hong Ling directly said, "This time, the marriage alliance between our two continents ends here." "Ends here?" Ling Li's eyes darkened as he asked in a low voice, "Continent Lord Hong, what do you mean by this?" "You should ask your young master about this." Hong Ling coldly looked at Ling Chun, who had his head lowered. "I'm sure he can give you an explanation." Ling Li looked at his son, and after seeing his pained expression, he couldn't help but sigh. "Continent Lord Hong, I want to see Luan Heir." Hong Ling smiled. "I've already sent someone to call her." Just as she finished speaking, a red figure hurriedly walked in. The woman was incredibly beautiful, with almond-shaped eyes, willowy eyebrows and red lips. She had an indescribable allure to her. Ever since Hong Ling came in, Ling Chen's gaze had been on her, unable to move away. The guilt in his gaze was very strong, so strong that it could be seen in his eyes. "Continent Lord Ling, you've come?" Hong Luan stopped walking and turned to look at Ling Li. "Are you here to cancel the marriage alliance?" Hearing Hong Luan call him that, Ling Li helplessly sighed. "Luan Heir, you used to call me uncle, so why are you treating me like an outsider now? I know my son was in the wrong, so I've brought him here to apologize. I've also brought that woman Xia Chu. As long as you can calm down, you can do whatever you want with her." Hong Luan laughed mockingly. "Continent Lord Ling, Ling Chan and Xia Chu have already consummated their marriage. Why do you think I should accept him?" Ling Li and Ling Li's expression became a bit ugly. Chen Er is a man, so it's not strange for him to have other women. Moreover, I can promise you that in the future, there will not be any women in the Northern Continent's Continent Lord's residence. In order to establish a marriage alliance with the Eastern Continent, Ling Li was going all out. Ling Chun did not say anything else. After the incident at the beginning of summer, he had decided to listen to his father's arrangements. "I'm sorry." Hong Luan raised her eyebrows and smiled. "I was born with misophobia. I will never accept a man who has been used by someone else." "Hong Luan!" Ling Li shouted angrily. However, just as he finished shouting, Hong Ling's hand suddenly fell on the table, her eyes imposing and fierce. "Continent Lord Ling, what do you want to do? My daughter is not someone you can yell at." Hearing this, Ling Li took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He continued, "Luan, uncle hopes that you will consider this carefully. In this world, there are far too few people who only have one woman in their life. No, it should be said that such people do not exist. Therefore, a man like Channer who doesn't take concubines in the future can be considered a good man." After speaking, Ling Li glanced at Ling Chun. Ling Chun suddenly came to his senses and hurriedly promised, I swear that as long as Luaner is willing to marry me, I won't let any other woman enter the house. All he said was not to let any woman in. What Lingli said was that he would never take a concubine. Neither of them could guarantee that Lingchan wouldn't take another woman in the future. How could a normal man not have any needs when living apart from his wife? As long as Lingchan didn't take concubines, it was only natural that he would find other women to satisfy his needs. Chapter 1356. How could Hong Luan not understand what these people were implying? She sneered, her eyes filled with disdain as she slowly swept her gaze across Lingli and his son. Lingchan, I once said that I, Hong Luan, only want one person for the rest of my life. Hong Luan raised her eyebrows and said condescendingly, what right do you have to marry me when your mind is controlled by your body? Lingli frowned slightly. He used to think that Hong Luan was very sensible, but now this woman was as stubborn as a cow. Furthermore, Chun'er had already promised that he would never take another concubine. Was that not enough? Luaner, uncle is matchmaking you and Chun'er for your own good. Which man does not have multiple wives and concubines nowadays? A man who is willing to marry only you in this life is already a good man. As for physical needs, that is a man's nature. No one can tolerate it. Hong Luan sneered. Since you said that, does that mean that all humans have needs? Can all women in the world sleep with Hong Luan? Lingli was furious, his tone no longer as polite as before. What are you talking about? How can a woman compare to a man? A woman should be faithful to the end of her life. Any woman who has an affair should be hacked to pieces. Actually, it was understandable for Lingli to be so angry. After all, Hong Luan's words had pierced his heart. Years ago, his concubine could not bear the loneliness and slept with another man. In a rage, he tore the adulterers into pieces. Any woman who was unfaithful deserved to die. Lingli. Hong Ling's eyes turned cold. This is the East Continent and Luaner is my daughter. I hope you can speak politely, otherwise don't blame me for being merciless. Hong Ling, how dare you criticize me? I would like to ask you how you raised your daughter. How dare she say such dissolute words? As a woman, do you know what shame is? How dare she say that women can also satisfy their needs? If this woman was not the eldest daughter of the East Continent Prefecture, she would have been killed by the righteous people of the continent. My daughter naturally has me to teach her. You have no right to speak here. Hong Ling said coldly, her face expressionless. Men, send the guest away. From today onwards, the East Continent Prefecture does not welcome people from the North Continent. His voice was cold and resolute, and he did not care about the good relationship he had with the North Continent over the years. Moreover, this was indeed Ling Chen's fault. Now these people had come here in the name of apologizing, but were still trying to force his daughter to marry him. Then why should he be polite to these people? 20 years ago, he had failed to protect the woman he loved. 20 years later, he would not let his daughter be hurt again. Hong Ling. Ling Li's eyes darkened and he said coldly, are you sure you want to do this? Not bad. Hong Ling sneered. Please go back. All right, I hope you won't regret this. Ling Li's eyes were filled with viciousness. He lifted his head to look at Hong Luan and said, Hong Luan, you've missed out on a man like Chun'er. Unless you remain unmarried for the rest of your life, your man will definitely have 3 wives and 4 concubines. It's impossible for anyone to promise you a lifetime of love. After saying this, Ling Li flung his sleeves and led the people of the North Continent Prefecture away in a hurry. Xia Chu seemed to have been forgotten by them as she was left in the hall. She looked at everyone in the hall with a pair of fearful eyes. Luaner, what do you plan to do with this woman? Hong Ling looked at Hong Luan and asked. Hong Luan pondered for a moment. Everything she has done has nothing to do with me. If we were to say that she has made a mistake, there can only be one. That is, she had designs on Yun Luofeng. Chapter 1357. Father. Hong Luan turned to Hong Ling and said, give the order to blacklist her. No one is allowed to accept her. I want her to destroy herself. In the end, Hong Luan still showed mercy. Aside from Ling Chan, Xia Chu had not done anything to harm her. Everything that she had done to Xia Chu had nothing to do with her. No. Even with such a punishment, Xia Chu could not help but cry out in despair. Miss Hong Luan, please let me go, I beg you. If the East Continent's prefecture lord issued an order to blacklist her in the future, not only would her family expel her, it would also be extremely difficult for her to find a rich husband in the future. This was equivalent to her life being ruined. Thinking of this, Xiachu knelt in front of Hong Luan and kowtowed fiercely. She kowtowed so hard that her forehead was quickly dyed red and blood flowed continuously from her head. Miss Hong Luan, I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare me, I beg you. Hong Luan raised an eyebrow. I've said it before. This is the price you have to pay for framing Yun Luofeng. She would not personally deal with Xiachu. However, once the East Continent's prefecture lord issued the order, this woman's days on the mainland would be extremely difficult. Perhaps her life would be worse than death. Scram. As soon as Hong Luan shouted, 2 guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed Xiachu's arms, violently throwing her out. Thump. Xiachu's body rolled on the ground a few times, causing her back to ache from the fall. At this moment her eyes were filled with helpless tears and despair. She knew that this time, she would definitely not have a chance to make a comeback. Unfortunately, her pitiful expression might be useful to men, but in Hong Luan's face, it would only increase her disgust. In the living room, silence reigned. Hong Luan turned her head, her phoenix eyes staring at the middle-aged man sitting on the high seat. Her red lips gently opened. Thank you. Hong Ling's heart suddenly trembled. For so many years, Luaner had always hated him from the bottom of her heart. No matter how much he had done, she had never heard those 2 words. Don't misunderstand, Hong Luan continued when she saw Hong Ling's eyes move slightly. I'm only thanking you because you protected me earlier. I'm afraid that I'll never be able to forgive you for what happened back then. How could the grief of losing his mother be easily forgiven? Otherwise, wouldn't my mother have lost her life in vain? I know. Hong Ling smiled bitterly. Even if you don't forgive me, I will use my life to make it up to you. Hong Luan wanted to say something, but the words that were at the tip of her tongue did not come out. She took one last look at Hong Ling, then turned around and walked out. Behind her, Hong Ling's gaze followed her figure until she disappeared from his sight. Miss. As soon as Hong Ling stepped out of the living room, a figure landed in front of her. He cupped his fists and said, We have found the whereabouts of the person you asked us to find. What? Hong Luan was delighted. Where is the Ghost Emperor? Central Province, Withered Dragon Town. Alright, I understand. I'll go find Yun Luofeng now and tell her this good news. At this moment in the Shangtian restaurant, the originally lively restaurant was completely silent. The customers eating in the restaurant were all dumbfounded as they looked at the lovely girl who was sweeping away the food on the table in front of them. They were so shocked that they could not speak. Chapter 1358. They couldn't imagine how such a cute girl could wolf down her food. How could her small stomach contain so much food? Eat slowly, don't choke. Little Mo frowned, not forgetting to remind Lin Ruobai. Even after the table was in a mess, Lin Ruobai still wasn't satisfied. She rubbed her stomach and looked at Yun Luofeng pitifully. Master, I'm still hungry. 3 black lines appeared on Little Mo's forehead. She looked at Lin Ruobai speechlessly. You've eaten so much and it's still not enough? My master's money isn't for you to spend like this, you wastrel. If it was the Lin Ruobai from before she had her memories, she would definitely tease Little Mo a little. But now, she only pouted her lips in dissatisfaction. Her bright eyes were filled with a pleading look. She looked so wrong that it made one's heart ache. At this time in the restaurant, there were a few guards sitting at a table. The guards heard Lin Ruobai's words and couldn't help but look at her. This little girl is not bad. If we can bring her back to the young master, he might raise our positions. Recently, Ling Chan had been depressed. Now that they saw such a cute girl, how could they not have designs on her? Moreover, the young master liked this kind of girl who looked pure and flawless. Wasn't Xiachu like this too? I think the girl in white is even more beautiful. She's a rare beauty. It's not just rare in the human world. Such a beauty probably doesn't even exist in the heavens. Unfortunately, the girl in white is holding a child. That child must be her son. She even has a son, so she's definitely not pure. Such a woman is not good enough for the young master. Sigh. Another guard sighed with some regret. I wonder who was so lucky to marry such a stunning beauty. How good would it be if our young master had such a beauty? Can those men compare to our young master? These guards of the North Continent Prefecture, because of their low status, did not follow Ling Chun to the East Continent Prefecture. They also did not follow Ling Li to the Continent Lord's mansion. Because of this, they did something that they would regret for the rest of their lives. Master, Lin Ruobai said shyly, when I passed by a street I smelled a very fragrant scent. Can I? No. Little Mo didn't wait for Lin Ruobai to finish before answering for Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng glanced at Little Mo. Go with her, I have something to do later. All right. Little Mo lowered his head helplessly with a depressed expression. Fire, let's go. After saying this, Yun Luofeng stood up and walked out of the restaurant. She hadn't seen Hu Li for a long time, and she didn't know how he and Wu were doing, so she wanted to take this opportunity to take a look. Hey! Seeing Yun Luofeng leave, Little Mo turned to Lin Ruobai and said unhappily, Where are you going? I'll go with you. Lin Ruobai blinked lightly, curiously sizing up the young man standing in front of him. She smiled brightly and reached out to pinch Little Mo's cheeks. When Little Mo wasn't paying attention, she moved closer to him and planted a kiss on his cheeks. Little big brother, you're really good looking. I like you. Boom! Like a bolt of lightning, Little Mo's body stiffened. He was dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe that this crazy girl Lin Ruobai would dare to kiss him. Chapter 1359. Oh no, his first kiss was gone. However, when he finally recovered from this feeling, he found that the girl who had just been standing in front of him had disappeared on the bustling street. Lin Ruobai had only taken 2 steps when she was stopped by several guards. She blinked innocently and stared at the people in front of her in confusion. Why are you stopping me? Hee. A slightly older guard chuckled and said with a fake smile, Little girl, we see that you're very cute and want to treat you to a meal. I wonder if you're willing to come with us? Lin Ruobai's eyes lit up and her face lit up with a bright smile. Her 2 canine teeth were exposed under the sun and she looked extremely cute. All right. The guards looked at each other. A foodie like Lin Ruobai was easy to abduct and sell. Little girl, let's go. As long as you serve our young master well, you can eat and drink with us in the future, unlike your poor master who doesn't even give you enough to eat. Lin Ruobai suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her cheeks puffed up and she glared at the guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng. Don't speak ill of master. You have to apologize. The guard's face stiffened. You want me to apologize? Yes, you must apologize if you speak ill of master. Otherwise, I won't go with you. Food was not as important as master. For master, she could give up food. You'd better apologize quickly. The older guard poked him and said, Don't cause trouble. After all, this was the territory of the East Continent and they could not take the little girl away by force. If the little girl did not want to go with them, there was nothing they could do. The guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng blushed and said unwillingly, I'm sorry. When they reached the North Continent Prefecture, he would teach them a lesson. Miss, can we go now? Oh yes, I haven't asked for your name. Master said that my name is Lin Ruobai. Oh, then what's your master's name? Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng? The guards looked at each other. They felt that the name was very familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. At the same time, in a small wooden hut, Yun Luofeng saw Hu Li and the little boy sitting in a daze at the door from afar. An imperceptible light flashed across her eyes. The instant Hu Li raised his head, he also saw Yun Luofeng appear in front of him. His eyes lit up and he hurriedly stood up, madly rushing towards the young girl in front of him. But just as he was about to rush in front of Yun Luofeng and open his arms to hug her, the little tree suddenly raised its head and giggled. Just as he finished laughing, countless vines sprang up and firmly wrapped around Hu Li's body. Yun Luofeng, I've missed you to death. Do you know how bored I was when you weren't around? Hu Li's eyes were filled with resentment. That gaze was as if Yun Luofeng had done something that would incur the wrath of the heavens. I'm here to inform you that we'll be leaving the East Continent in 2 days. Really? Hu Li's eyes lit up. That's great. These few days in the East Continent, I've been on tenterhooks, afraid that I'll become that lunatic Hong Luan's punching bag. Do you know how many people were beaten up by her back in the academy? Now, all the students in the academy feel fear whenever they see her. Chapter 1360. Yun Luofeng listened attentively to Hu Li's words and nodded. Let me tell you a piece of unfortunate news. Hong Luan will be leaving with me. Crack. Yun Luofeng heard the sound of his heart breaking. Hu Li's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. He asked in disbelief, Are you joking with me? You want to take that lunatic with you? Do you think that I'm joking? Yun Luofeng raised his brows and asked. Hu Li's expression was filled with despair. I'm finished. Traveling with this lunatic is equivalent to taking my life. You sold yourself to me for 10 years. It's too late to regret it now. Yun Luofeng gently raised the corners of his lips. She loved to see this foxman's expression of despair. Master. Just then, Xiaomo's voice rang out from behind Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and turned around. When he saw that Xiaomo was alone, he paused and asked, You're alone. Where's Xiao Bai? Master, Xiaomo is missing. Xiaomo's voice sounded a little bashful when he thought of Xiao Bai's kiss. That was his first kiss after all. He had only managed to recover from his shock with great difficulty, but by the time he had regained his senses, Xiao Bai had already disappeared. Xiao Bai may not have a complete mind, but it won't be easy to hurt her. My only worry is that she will be deceived by others. Don't worry, Master. I have already instructed Xiao Bai that if anyone tries to take off her clothes, they must be a bad person, so she has to protect her chastity. Xiaomo grinned at Yun Luofeng as if he was asking for a reward. Based on Xiao Bai's state of mind, she certainly does not understand the relationship between a man and a woman. He had only instructed her to be careful to prevent Xiao Bai from being deceived by other men. Yun Luofeng glanced at Xiaomo. Did you tell her not to leave with strangers? Xiaomo's expression froze and he scratched his head. I forgot. Let's go, we'll talk after we find Xiao Bai. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept across Xiaomo's handsome face as he spoke. I'll deal with you when we get back. Seeing that Yun Luofeng was about to leave, little Mo quickly followed behind her and nagged. Master, why is little White so disobedient? I was just distracted for a moment, and then she disappeared. This won't do. When she comes back, I'll teach her a good lesson, lest she gets kidnapped and sold. In the courtyard, a few guards sneakily walked in with a cute girl. When they saw that no one was guarding outside, they hurriedly brought the girl to the storeroom. The guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng looked at his companions and coughed dryly. He cleared his throat and said, Help me guard the door. I need to teach this girl a lesson so she knows how to serve the young master. Serve? Lin Ruabai blinked. I don't want to be a maid. When the guards heard the soft voice, they looked at each other and smiled. Don't worry, we're not asking you to be a maid. We're here to give you a life of luxury. From now on, you can have whatever you want. The guard grabbed Lin Ruabai's arm and pulled her into the storeroom. Lin Ruabai walked in and what she saw was a mess. Her bright eyes were filled with confusion as she turned to look at the guard. Chapter 1361. Where are the delicacies? Haha. The guard laughed sinisterly. Young lady, if you want to enjoy the delicacies, you can only use your body as an exchange. Don't worry, my young master is very gentle. If you can win his favor, there will be countless delicacies waiting for you. At the mention of delicacies, Lin Ruabai's eyes lit up again. Really? Then how can I get the delicacies? Take off your clothes first. I'll check if you're still a virgin for my young master. Lin Ruabai did not understand what being a virgin meant, but she understood. The guard in front of her wanted her to take off her clothes. No, little big brother said that I can't let anyone take off my clothes. Anyone who wants to take off my clothes is a bad person. Lin Ruabai bit her lip and took 2 steps back. Young lady, don't be afraid. My young master will definitely treat you well. The guard's smile became even more sinister as he approached Lin Ruabai. At this moment, the guard, who was in the middle of his excitement, did not notice the red light in the young lady's eyes. Get lost. Lin Ruabai bellowed as he slapped the guard across the face. Smack. The guard's head spun rapidly like a top under the slap. Thud. In the end, his neck could not bear the weight of his head and rolled down, blood splattering all over the ground. Dead? Lin Ruabai was clearly shocked. She looked at her hand, her eyes filled with grievance. I didn't do it on purpose. He couldn't take it and died on his own. It has nothing to do with me. Also, little big brother said that if anyone molests me, I'll kill him. So I didn't do anything wrong. Although she said this, Lin Ruobai's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was pale. She looked at the decapitated corpse in front of her with fear. Her body curled up in a corner, trembling. Outside the door, the remaining 2 guards felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, there should be no movement in the storeroom, but it was unusually quiet. Should we go in and take a look? The 2 of them looked at each other, feeling uneasy. However, just as they were about to push the door open, a loud bang came from the front, causing the ground to shake a few times. A young girl dressed in white walked in from outside. She evilly looked around and said in a cold voice, "Tell Ling Chan to get the hell out here." Ling Li and his son had already heard the commotion. When Ling Li saw the girl in white standing at the door, his anger surged. "Yun Luofeng, what are you trying to do?" Yun Luofeng looked at Ling Chan. "I heard that your Northern Continent's guards captured my disciple?" "Yun Luofeng, don't slander me." Ling Chen's anger soared to the heavens, his face ashen. "I don't even know who your disciple is. How could I send people to capture her? I'm no longer bothering Hong Luan. What else do you want? Do you need to use such a lame excuse to get back at me?" Ling Li frowned. Hearing his son's words, he already understood that the girl in front of him was the person pretending to be Hong Luan's man. "I'll only give you one chance, hand over my disciple. Otherwise, even if my soul is destroyed, I'll make your Northern Continent go to hell with me." The girl's eyes were filled with arrogance. Her cold eyes fell on Ling Chan, and she said expressionlessly, "Ha ha." Ling Li coldly laughed and looked at Yun Luofeng disdainfully. "I'm the Northern Continent's continent lord. You're just a new Saint King. What right do you have to speak to me?" Chapter 1362. Indeed, Yun Luofeng had just become a Saint King, and could not be compared to Ling Li. But, as long as she could save Xiao Bai, she had nothing to fear even if it cost her life. "Father," Ling Chan suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "She has a good relationship with Hong Luan. If you do anything to her, the East Continent Prefecture will definitely help you, so leave this matter to me." After saying this, Ling Chan stepped forward and said calmly, "Yun Luofeng, I, Ling Chan, can tell you that I did not take your disciple. You came to the wrong place. I can also let you search this residence. If you can't find your disciple, then you must apologize to me. If you find her, you can do whatever you want with the people of the Northern Continent." However, just as Ling Chan finished speaking, 2 guards hurriedly walked over. When they saw Yun Luofeng standing in front of Ling Chan, a layer of cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. They had not taken Lin Ruobai for long. Why did her master come looking for them so quickly? Unfortunately, even if she came looking for them, it did not matter. Could the forces of the Northern Continent not deal with these 2 women? "Master," little Mo suddenly said, "I remember these 2 people. When we were in the restaurant, they kept staring at Xiao Bai and whispering. Because of the distance and the noise in the restaurant, I did not hear what they were talking about. But since they are the guards of the Northern Continent Prefecture, Xiao Bai's disappearance must have been caused by them." In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to the 2 guards. Ling Li's eyes were dignified as he asked coldly, "What happened?" "Sir Continent Lord." The older guard wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, This is what happened. We saw that young master has been depressed recently, so we brought back a woman to offer to young master. Moreover, that woman is willing. If you don't believe us, you can ask her." Since Lin Ruobai agreed to go with them, it proved that she intended to use her body to exchange for delicious food. "I say, young lady." Thinking of this, the old guard raised his head and looked at Yun Luofeng. "You treated your disciple harshly and didn't give her enough to eat. We really pitied her, so we brought her back. Moreover, we didn't force her, she was willing." "Nonsense." Little Mo was furious and rushed over to teach the guard a lesson. Who knew that Yun Luofeng would suddenly reach out and stop him? "Where is she?" Yun Luofeng's voice was very low, and it was not hard to hear the murderous intent in it. "Where is Whitey?" At this moment, little Mo suddenly recalled the scene from back then. In the past, in order to deal with Yun Luofeng, there was a clan that captured Whitey. In the end, they completely angered Yun Luofeng, and he slaughtered them all. This time, the North Continent Prefecture would not be able to exist for long. Ling Chan understood everything. He said mockingly, "Your disciple is so debauched, and you still dare to come to my residence to ask for him? If I, Ling Chan, want a woman, she will come with a wave of my hand. Even if that disciple of yours came to me, I might not be interested." Boom! Murderous intent surged from Yun Luofeng's body as she shouted coldly, "Little Mo!" In an instant, Little Mo appeared in front of Ling Chan like a ghost. His speed was too fast, so fast that no one could react. Then a hand slapped Ling Chen's face, and he was sent flying by the slap. Chapter 1363. I'll ask you one last time, where is Xiao Bai? The girl's killing intent surged. If you don't want to hand over Xiao Bai, then get out of the way. I'll find her myself. Ling Li's face was ashen. His tightly clenched fist was wrapped in a layer of valiant power. With a roar, he wanted to rush towards Yun Luofeng. At this moment, a domineering voice came from the void. "Ling Li, if you dare touch my friend, the East Continent Prefecture will not let you off." Hong Luan, who was dressed in red, landed in front of Yun Luofeng. Her voice was loud and it made Ling Li's figure stop. "Hong Luan, you want to protect her against me?" Ling Li's eyes narrowed, his tone threatening. Hong Luan put an arm on Yun Luofeng's shoulder and smiled. "Yun Luofeng is my friend. Who do you think you are? Should I not protect her but you?" Looking at the girl in red in front of him, Yun Luofeng felt a warm feeling in his heart. Since she had come to find Ling Chan, she was prepared. Even if she could not defeat Ling Li, she was half confident that she could save Xiao Bai and escape. But under such circumstances, Hong Luan had come. For her, he would rather fall out with the North Continent Prefecture. How could she not be moved by such friendship? Yun Luofeng. Ling Li took a deep breath and looked at Yun Luofeng coldly. "You'd better not leave the East Continent for the rest of your life. Otherwise, I will kill you." Yun Luofeng smiled. "That depends on whether you have the chance." "Humph." Ling Li snorted and turned to look at the two trembling guards. "Take her to see her disciple." The two guards' eyes were filled with fear. Only now did they remember why the name Yun Luofeng was so familiar. Wasn't Yun Luofeng the name of Hong Luan's man? But why did no one tell them that Yun Luofeng was a woman? "Hong Luan, you're protecting the wrong person this time." Ling Chen's eyes darkened as he said in a low voice, "It's Yun Luofeng's disciple who is greedy for power and wants to seduce me. She has the face to come here and ask for me, and yet you're protecting her?" Hong Luan pretended not to hear Ling Chen's mockery and followed Yun Luofeng. Bang! The noisy storeroom was kicked open. Ling Chen and the others, who had been pleased with themselves, were dumbfounded when they saw the scene in the storeroom. The two guards who had abducted Lin Ruobai almost fainted from fright. They rejoiced in their hearts. If they hadn't been able to resist pushing open the door, what would have been waiting for them? "Master, little brother." Lin Ruobai raised her head and saw the crowd at the door. She let out a cry and rushed towards Little Mo. Bang! Little Mo was almost knocked over by Lin Ruobai. She quickly stabilized herself and gently comforted Lin Ruobai. "It's all right. Master and I are here." "Boo-hoo, I killed someone. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't expect him to be so weak. I just gave him a light slap and he died. I really didn't mean to kill him. It was just a light slap." In the end, the guard's head was sent flying. Ling Li and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. Was this little girl looking down on the guards of the North Continent Prefecture? And she dared to say that the guard was weak? "Don't be afraid. You didn't do anything wrong." Little Mo helplessly patted Lin Ruobai's back and looked at Yun Luofeng for help. Chapter 1364. He really didn't know how to comfort Lin Ruobai, who was like this. "Xiao Bai." Yun Luofeng walked in front of Lin Ruobai, his palm gently caressing her head, and said softly, "This is a world where the strong prey on the weak. If you don't kill people, people will definitely kill you. Thus, if anyone bullies you in the future, just kill them. I will take care of the aftermath for you." "Really?" Lin Ruobai raised her head, her teary eyes gazing at Yun Luofeng. "Master is definitely right. If anyone bullies me in the future, then I will kill them." A good child had to listen to her master. If her master said that killing was right, then what harm was there in killing them all? "Master, these two people also lied to me. Lin Ruobai pointed at the two trembling guards. They tricked me into coming here and even wanted to take off my clothes. Can I kill them? Yun Luofeng nodded. Yes. Then, I will kill them. Lin Ruobai smiled. This smile was very bright, innocent and pure. No one would have thought that the cruel words just now had come from the mouth of this pure and flawless young girl. Stop. Ling Li flew into a rage. He didn't think that someone would actually dare to kill his people in front of him. Thinking of this, he quickly rushed towards Lin Ruobai, the aura on his body surging, rumbling loudly. Boom! Yun Luofeng suddenly flashed, standing in front of Lin Ruobai, and raised his hand to meet Ling Li's attack. In an instant, a powerful force penetrated her body, causing her to instantly take a few steps back. A mouthful of blood almost gushed out of her throat, but she swallowed it back down. Yun Luofeng! Hong Luan shouted loudly. Master! Little Mo and Fire's expressions also changed unknowingly. Ling Li's attack was too fast, and Yun Luofeng's speed was also very agile, to the point that they were unable to react. Compared to these people's worries, Ling Li's eyes were filled with shock. Impossible! This woman is only a person who has just entered the Saint King stage. With her strength, she will definitely die under my palm. Why did she only take a few steps back? This is impossible. At the same time, a bloody hole appeared in the chests of the two guards. Lin Ruobai calmly withdrew her blood-stained fists. She stuck out her tender tongue and licked the bright red blood. Her appearance was full of evil, no longer as innocent and pure as before. Master? As Lin Ruobai turned around, she saw Yun Luofeng's pale face. She started, then hurried to his side. Master, are you hurt? I'm fine. Yun Luofeng shook his head and raised his head slightly. Lin Ruobai's black eyes gradually turned bloodshot. She clenched her fists tightly and stared coldly at Ling Li. You injured master, I won't let you off. Little White. Seeing Xiao Bai's state, Little Mo's expression changed. She quickly rushed forward and hugged the young girl tightly. Your soul hasn't fully recovered yet, so you can't use too much power. Otherwise you'll go berserk. Let me go. Boom! Lin Ruobai's body exploded with a powerful force, forcing Little Mo to take a few steps back. Perhaps Little Mo didn't expect Lin Ruobai's strength to be so strong. He looked at her in shock. The power of her bloodline is actually this strong? Fortunately, she is Master's disciple. Otherwise, she would definitely become Master's enemy. Little Mo was very glad. Glad that Yun Luofeng had accepted Lin Ruobai. Chapter 1365. Little White stepped down. Yun Luofeng also understood the consequences of Lin Ruobai forcefully using his strength. She frowned and ordered. Lin Ruobai's body stiffened as he looked at Yun Luofeng with a wronged expression. Master? Little White, your soul is incomplete. Remember my words, you can't use too much power in the future. Little White was an obedient child, especially when it came to listening to his master. Even though she was so angry that she wanted to kill someone, she still retracted her power and stood beside Yun Luofeng, feeling wronged. Ling Li, you hurt my friend. One day, I will repay you for everything that happened today. Hong Luan's cold eyes swept past Ling Li, walked in front of Yun Luofeng and supported her body. Also, I will let my father settle the score with you later. Yun Luofeng, I will help you back to rest. If it was the Hong Luan of the past, she would definitely have impulsively gone to find Ling Li to settle the score. But now her mind was calm. She knew that she and Yun Luofeng were not Ling Li's match, so there was no point in staying here. It was better to go back and find her father to help Yun Luofeng vent his anger. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything and allowed Hong Luan to help her out. After she left the courtyard, she ordered, Fire, bring the little tree and Little White back first. All right. Fire nodded. She looked at Yun Luofeng, then picked up the little tree, pulled Lin Ruobai, and shot into the sky in a flash. At this moment, no one could see that the little tree's black eyes were filled with anger. His eyes didn't look like a child's but more like an adult's. Master, you used the power of the divine grimoire again. Little Mo curled his lips and said. This power was naturally not the kind that Yun Luofeng had used to save Yun Xiao. Back then, in order to save Yun Xiao, she had forcefully broken through, which had led to serious consequences. And this time, although she had also increased her strength, because she did not use that power to break through, her soul would at most be weakened for 10 days to half a month. Poochie. Yun Luofeng finally spat out a mouthful of blood that he had been suppressing at the back of his throat. She smiled faintly and said, "Is this the power of the continent masters? One day I will be above them." "Master," Little Mo said angrily. "Little Mo, I know you're worried about me." Yun Luofeng looked at the youth beside him. "But I don't regret it. As long as I can make Xiaobai happy, I won't regret anything." If she hadn't borrowed the power of the divine grimoire, she probably wouldn't have been able to withstand Ling Li's attack. Even if she didn't die, she would have been severely injured. "Xiaomo, don't tell Xiaobai about this. Even if that girl's mind isn't complete, she's not an idiot. I don't want her to worry too much." Yun Luofeng smiled. "Besides, don't forget that I'm a doctor. My weak illness will quickly recover." The two of them spoke through soul transmissions so Hong Luan, who was beside them, couldn't hear their conversation. By the way, Hong Luan seemed to remember something and said, "You asked me to look for the little boy who was with Hu Li, but I couldn't find any information about him. He shouldn't be from the East Continent. As for the Ghost Emperor, I've already found out where he is." Yun Luofeng was startled. He stopped and turned to look at Hong Luan. "Where is he?" "The Middle State, Withered Dragon Town." "The Middle State, Withered Dragon Town." Yun Luofeng muttered to himself for a moment. "Then go back and prepare today. We'll leave tomorrow." "No," Hong Luan frowned. "You haven't recovered from your injuries. You can't leave tomorrow." Chapter 1366. My injury isn't a big deal. It won't affect my journey. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes as a light flashed across them. Yun Xiao must be waiting for me in the Middle State. No matter what, I must go to his side. Hong Luan did not say anything else in the end when she saw the determination on the young girl's face. She only silently followed Yun Luofeng's side as a smile slowly formed on her beautiful face. In the Continent Lord's residence, when Hong Ling found out that her daughter had been humiliated by Ling Li, she flew into a rage, and immediately brought people to settle the score with Ling Li and his father. Even though Xiaobai had killed 3 of the Northern Continent's guards, they were in the wrong. As such, facing Hong Ling's fury, Ling Li could not say anything, and could only allow Hong Ling to demand compensation. Moreover, this was the Eastern Continent's territory, and most of his subordinates were not here. If he fought with Hong Ling here, a huge battle would be unavoidable. Moreover, it would result in a lose-lose situation. In contrast to Ling Li, who was holding back, Ling Chen's fury surged, and he stared at Hong Ling. He tightly clenched his fists, a vicious look in his eyes. One day, he would topple the Eastern Continent, and make Hong Ling and her daughter kneel in front of him and beg for mercy. Otherwise, he would not be able to quell his anger. After a while, the furious Hong Ling let go of Ling Li and his father. She flicked her sleeves, and led the people from the Eastern Continent's prefecture away. Ling Chan gritted his teeth, and glared in the direction that Hong Ling had left. "Dad, we're just going to let him insult us? And we're going to compensate Hong Luan for being scared?" Ling Chan was incredibly dissatisfied. His father was the continent lord of the Northern Continent, and yet Hong Ling did not give him any face. This is the Eastern Continent, and adding on the fact that we were in the wrong, we definitely won't have a good ending against Hong Ling. Ling Li narrowed his eyes and a dangerous light flashed in his eyes. "Son, you must remember that the Northern Continent and the Eastern Continent will never be able to coexist. If you find an opportunity, you definitely won't let Hong Luan off. Humiliating him would require a painful price. Dad, I want Hong Luan to kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. And that woman called Yun Luofeng, they'll all die horrible deaths." At this moment, the guilt and remorse in Ling Chen's heart towards Hong Luan had long since disappeared, replaced by boundless anger. Ling Li patted Ling Chen's shoulder and said, "Let's go back to the Northern Continent now. When we return to the mansion, I'll immediately send you to the Forbidden Area to train. After you leave the Forbidden Area, your strength will increase." "Father, are we not going to care about Hong Luan and Yun Luofeng?" Ling Chan stared in surprise. "Didn't you say that you would kill Hong Luan and Yun Luofeng as soon as they leave the Eastern Continent?" Ling Li shook his head. Compared to them, it's more important for you to raise your strength. Once you've raised your strength, no one will be able to stop you from taking revenge. Furthermore, I'll leave my men in the eastern continent. If Hong Luan and Yun Luofeng really leave, our men will kill them. As for you, there's no need for you to stay. I understand. Ling Chan nodded, his eyes filled with determination. Hong Luan looks down on me because I'm weaker than her. When I can step into the forbidden area, I will trample Hong Luan under my feet and let her understand how great of a loss it is to lose me. Even if he had Xia Chu, Hong Luan did not have the right to reject him? What man could guarantee that he would only have one woman in his life? Why would she look down on him? Chapter 1367. It was night. The moonlight was like water. A burst of giggling came from outside the door. Ling Chen's eyes, which were pretending to be asleep, suddenly opened. He looked towards the door and shouted, "Who is it?" Under the hazy night, a small figure stood in the shadow of the moon. This small person seemed to have just learned to walk, and was unable to stand steadily. However, his evil laughter was like a hungry ghost that had crawled out from hell, causing Ling Chen's body to tremble. Just when Ling Chan wanted to see who it was, with a whoosh, countless vines occupied the entire room, instantly binding Ling Chen's body to the wall. "Hold!" Before he could finish a word, a vine full of thorns grew from the side, and instantly pierced into his mouth. Bright red blood flowed out from his mouth, and it was so painful that Ling Chan almost cried. He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't even say a single word, and could only let out whimpering sounds. Pa! Pa pa pa! The vines fiercely whipped Ling Chen's body. Adding on the fact that Ling Chan had been pampered since he was young, and his skin was soft and tender, in a short moment, his skin had already split open, and blood was dripping out. Under the night, the fat baby clapped his hands and giggled, as if the scene in the room was exceptionally interesting. On his white and cute little face, there was an innocent smile. Xiaoshu. A red dress jumped down from the tree and stood beside the fat baby. "We should go, or else master will find out that the two of us are missing." The fat baby curled his small mouth, as if he was still not satisfied, but he still obediently allowed Fire to hold his small hand, and gradually left the courtyard. After they left, the barrier around them also disappeared. When the two maids passed by, they heard the pa-pa-pa sounds coming from the door, and their faces and ears turned red. Young master's energy is really vigorous, but ever since Lady Xia Chu was chased out, young master has not had any luck with other women. I wonder who was so lucky tonight. Let's not disturb young master, in case we ruin young master's mood. As the voices became further and further away, Ling Chan, who was in the room, wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to keep the two maids, but in the end, he could only let out whimpering sounds. In reality, there was a reason why the two maidservants had such a reaction. When Xia Chu was still around, she and Ling Chan would make a lot of noise every night, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't know that they were full of energy. At first, the maidservant thought that something had happened and rushed into the room. Who knew that what she saw was an unbearable scene? From then on, no matter how loud the commotion in Ling Chen's room was, no one dared to take a single step inside. Especially since these two maidservants were women who had yet to mature, so they couldn't tell where the commotion in the room was coming from. If there was a woman here, she would be able to hear that there was only the sound of pa-pa-pa in Ling Chen's room, but there were no sounds of a woman moaning. Therefore, it was not until the next day that the people of the North Continent Prefecture found their young master lying on the ground, half dead. His skin and flesh were torn, and blood was flowing from his mouth. He looked like a bloody man. Because of what had happened to the Northern Continent Palace, Ling Li had sent out all of his experts to find the culprit, as well as to evacuate with Ling Chan. He no longer had the leisure to deal with Yun Luofeng. Chapter 1368. As for why Ling Li did not suspect that it was done by the people of the Eastern Continent Prefecture, that was because last night, his own son had been beaten up so badly, but he did not hear anything. There were very few people in the entire continent who could do this. With Hong Ling's power, if he appeared, it was impossible for him to not notice anything. Therefore, Ling Li eliminated the suspicion of the Eastern Continent Prefecture at this moment. In the Eastern Continent Prefecture, Yun Luofeng had already heard of Ling Li's tragic situation. She raised her eyebrows and looked at the two people standing in front of her. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Last night, where did you two go? Fire lowered her head, not daring to look into Yun Luofeng's eyes. Her fingers nervously rubbed the corner of her clothes, looking like she was admitting her mistake. Mother. The sapling stretched out his chubby little hand and gently stroked Yun Luofeng's face. His eyes were clear, as bright as the afternoon sun. They bullied you. The ones who bullied you are all bad people. Yun Luofeng reached out and hugged the chubby baby in front of him. He sighed helplessly. Fire, sapling, don't act on your own in the future without my orders. For the northern continent to have the power it has today, they must have a trump card in their hands. If you fall into their hands, won't I have to save you? Hearing this, Fire's eyes lit up. Master, don't worry, when the little tree and I were moving, Xiaomo set up a barrier for us. With that barrier, Lingli will not be able to feel us. Little Mo, who was originally gloating at the side, heard Fire's words, and his expression immediately changed. However, it was too late for him to stop it. Fire had already completely betrayed him. Oh! Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at little Mo with a smile that was not a smile. The one who reported Fire and the sapling to me was you. I didn't expect you to be involved as well? What? Fire flew into a rage. He put his hands on his hips and stared angrily at little Mo. You exposed me and the sapling to the master? This I can explain. Little Mo wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and wanted to explain. However, before he could finish his sentence, Xiao Shu lifted Xiao Mo up and gave her a good beating. Although Xiao Shu had only been born for a year, his mind was equivalent to that of a 5- or 6-year-old child because he was not human. Therefore, when he heard that little Mo had betrayed them, his little face turned red with anger. He seemed to have forgotten who had taken care of him. Little Mo was very miserable. Last night, it was because Yun Luofeng had asked him where the fire had gone that he spoke too much, causing him to suffer such a calamity today. If he had known this would happen, he would have kept his mouth shut last night and said nothing. When Hong Luan arrived, she saw little Mo being hung on the tree and beaten up by Little Tree. She was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. Yun Luofeng, this guy is your son? Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment and said, No, but he called me mother. I thought he was your son, so valiant. Hong Luan stroked her chin and looked at Yun Luofeng with a smile. Yun Luofeng, I originally thought that if we left this place this time, we would definitely be chased by the experts of the northern continent. Now that the northern continent prefecture is in chaos because of Ling Chen's injury, I'm afraid they won't be able to care about us. So, let's take this opportunity to leave this place. Chapter 1369. She paused for a moment before she continued. By the way, how are your injuries? It's nothing serious. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily and slowly rose to his feet. Hong Luan, say goodbye to your father and we'll be leaving. Hong Luan's body stiffened. She lowered her eyelids and her lips curled into an exasperated smile. Yun Luofeng, no matter how well my father treats me now, I can never forget how my mother died. Only when my mother comes back to life will I be able to forgive him from the bottom of my heart. Actually, Hong Ling's changes during this period of time had shaken Hong Luan's heart. The only thing that she had not forgiven him was her mother's death. Her mother's death had always been a thorn in her heart. If she did not remove it, she would never be able to forgive her for the rest of her life. Yun Luofeng, do you think that the Yellow Springs exists in this world? Hong Luan raised her head and stared at the young girl. If the Yellow Springs exists, I will certainly go there and find my mother. Yun Luofeng patted Hong Luan's shoulder, silently comforting her. After a long pause, she slowly said, I'll wait for you for an hour. We'll leave after an hour. All right. She did not know when she would be able to return, so she naturally bid farewell to her father. In the study, the man stood with his hands behind his back and his back towards the door. Perhaps he had sensed that Hong Luan was about to leave, so he had been feeling restless the entire day. Suddenly, a slender lily-white hand pushed open the study door, and a beautiful woman dressed in red appeared at the door. Father! She called out softly, but there were many things she wanted to say. The middle-aged man's body stiffened and he slowly turned around. His stern eyes only relaxed when he saw his daughter. Luaner, I will wait here for you. I will wait for you to prove that you were right and I was wrong. Hong Luan nodded seriously. I will prove to you that I can make a name for myself without relying on any connections. Haha, Hongling laughed out loud. This is my Hongling's daughter. You will never disappoint me. Alright, you and Yun Luofeng should go. This girl is not simple. Perhaps if you follow her, you will be able to make a name for yourself. When the father and daughter parted, neither of them brought up any sad topics. Hong Luan took one last look at the middle-aged man behind her before she turned and walked out of the study. After she left, the smile on the middle-aged man's face slowly disappeared. At that moment he seemed to have aged a few decades, and his originally straight back gradually hunched down. Maybe I've done too many wrong things all these years, but the only thing I don't think I've done wrong is giving birth to this daughter. Warner, it doesn't matter if you hate me or blame me. I'll hand over the best of the Eastern continent to you. The entire study room responded to him with silence. Hong Luan walked out of the room and tears suddenly flowed down her face. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked at the tightly shut door behind her once again. Her expression slowly became determined. Father, after I've made some achievements, I'll definitely return in triumph. Yun Luofeng was already waiting for Hong Luan at the door. When Hong Luan appeared, she didn't ask anything. She only said indifferently, since we've said our goodbyes, it's time for us to leave. Hong Luan pursed her lips and smiled. All right. Ling Continent. The Jun family. The middle-aged man sat on a chair in the study and looked at the book in his hands with a slight headache. He rubbed his throbbing temples and sighed. Where did Master and Linger run off to again? The two of them sure are carefree and unrestrained, but they left this huge Jun family for me to handle. Chapter 1370. Master. Suddenly, a hurried voice came from outside the study. Without waiting for a reply, the man burst through the door. The man's face was stern. What happened? How can you be so reckless? Master, the guard knelt on the ground. I just received a letter from the master of the East Continent. It is said that a young girl with the old master's jade token is passing through the East Continent. I wonder if she is the person the old master is looking for. What? The middle-aged man stood up, his face full of joy. Is this information accurate? By the way, the person with the jade token is a young girl. Logically speaking, the junior sister should not be so young. Could she be the junior sister's daughter? Quick, go find the old patriarch. You must tell him this news. Perhaps he was too excited. The middle-aged man stood up, the joy on his face genuine. No one knew how much the master had missed the junior sister all these years. Back then, the master would not have entrusted the junior sister to someone else to take care of. When he solved the problem and went to look for the junior sister, he could not find any trace of her. Master, this is the letter from the East Continent. Also, this is the drawing of the jade token. The guard respectfully presented the letter to him. The middle-aged man scanned the letter, then spread the drawing of the jade token in his hand. His fingers caressed the drawing of the jade token, and he said with mixed feelings, the word June on the jade token was carved by the master himself. I recognize the master's handwriting. It seems that the jade token is not fake. By the way, did the master of the East Continent give the young girl a portrait? The guard shook his head. The East Continent only sent a letter and a drawing of the jade token. In fact, he did the right thing. He should not have sent the young girl's portrait. Otherwise, she would fall into the hands of someone with ulterior motives and be used to threaten the master. Now, it is enough to know that the master's daughter is still in this continent. We will meet again one day. The middle-aged man's voice was full of excitement. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately sent the June family to find the old master's whereabouts. Middle Continent. In a mansion, an old man in a white robe was playing chess with an old man opposite him. His eyes were bright and full of vigor. Standing beside the white-robed old man was a young girl brimming with spiritual energy. This young girl was about 16 or 17 years old. She didn't have a beauty that could cause the downfall of cities and empires, but she looked very comfortable. Her eyes seemed to speak, and they were as bright as the stars in the night sky. Haha, I've won again. The green-robed old man laughed out loud and placed the chess piece on the chessboard. He raised his head and looked at the white-robed old man. Old man June, you seem to be in a bad mood recently. You can't even play chess well. What happened? Isn't it my disciple? The white-robed old man smiled bitterly. The June family has been searching for my whereabouts all over the continent recently. I reckon that my disciple wants to lay down his business. So, I took Linger to hide in your place. What do you think? After so many years, there's still no news of your daughter's whereabouts? The green-robed old man frowned and asked. Grandpa June sighed and shook his head helplessly. I have been looking for her for so many years, but I have not been able to find her. Do you think she is already gone? Grandpa. Hearing the old man's slightly sentimental words, the young girl beside him blinked her big bright eyes and said with a smile. Chapter 1371. Don't worry, Aunt is definitely still alive. It's just that we haven't found where she is hiding. Moreover, with Aunt's age, she must have given birth to children. When that time comes, Linger will have brothers and sisters. Grandpa June laughed out loud. Forget about your brother. I prefer little girls. I do hope that Junior will give birth to a granddaughter for me. Compared to boys, Grandpa June preferred girls. If it was a boy, then wouldn't he be angered to death by his own disciple? Girls were still better. Linger was much more sensible than her father. She was also well-behaved and obedient. Grandpa, you value girls more than boys. Linger playfully stuck out her tongue and said with a smile. I still want to live for a few more years. What if I have a grandson who always angers me like your father? Grandpa June trembled with anger when he thought of his stubborn disciple. If he had known earlier, he would have accepted a female disciple. The old man looked at the girl standing in front of Grandpa June, and a smile appeared on his old face. All these years, it was all thanks to Linger accompanying Grandpa June. Otherwise, even if he did not die from grief over not being able to see his daughter, he would still be depressed. Grandpa. Linger's eyes flickered a few times and a bright smile appeared on her face. Father sent so many people to look for you. Is there something wrong? What can he do? Isn't it just to return the June family to me? Since this June family still needs me to manage it, then why did I accept a disciple in the first place? Grandpa June snorted coldly. In any case, he is dreaming. The old man coughed twice and looked a little embarrassed. Actually, you can train Linger to be the next generation's successor. This girl's talent is not bad. Maybe her achievements in the future will be higher than her father's. That won't do. I still want this girl to accompany me for a few more years. Do you want my disciple to accompany me? What's the point of two men staring at each other every day? Grandpa June rejected his good friend's suggestion. He did not want to face his disciple's face every day. Grandpa Moo, Linger will only go back to be the successor after Linger has accompanied Grandpa to find my aunt, Linger said sensibly. The green-robed old man looked enviously at Grandpa June. Grandpa, I really envy you for having such a sensible granddaughter. It seems that I should also accept a disciple so that I won't be jealous of you every day. Although Linger was not of Grandpa June's blood, Grandpa June had long regarded her as his own granddaughter. Otherwise, he would not have doted on her so much, to the point of grooming her to be his successor. Come. Let us continue playing chess, Grandpa June laughed. By the way, there seems to be quite a number of people visiting your Tianyu city recently. What happened? Old Master Mu frowned slightly. I heard that there seems to be a person called the Ghost Emperor who obtained something called the Bodhi Heart. Once the Bodhi Heart is consumed, one will not die for 3 days. So many people are chasing after the Ghost Emperor for the Bodhi Heart. Bodhi Heart? Grandpa June was startled. I've heard of the Heart of Bodhi. Could it be that the Ghost Emperor is in Tianyu City? That's not the case. Mudong shook his head. The Ghost Emperor is in the Withered Dragon Town. If you want to go to the Withered Dragon Town, you will have to go through Tianyu City. However, the Ghost Emperor is very powerful. In order to prevent people from dying in vain, countless experts have held a trial in Tianyu City. Only those who pass the trial are qualified to go to the Withered Dragon Town. Other than them, no one else is allowed to go through Tianyu City. Chapter 1372. There's such a thing? Grandpa June was a little surprised. Humans die for wealth and birds die for food. An ordinary man is innocent, but he gets into trouble because of his wealth. However, I am very interested in this test. Oh, Mudong raised an eyebrow. You want to participate as well? Grandpa June shook his head. The Ghost Emperor was able to obtain the heart of Bodhi. That is his own ability. What does it have to do with me? I just want to see how strong the people from the central continent are. Old Man Mu, don't you want to take in a disciple? Perhaps this is an opportunity. However, let me give you a piece of advice. Do not take in a person with a bad character. Haha, Mudong laughed. If you are interested, we can go and watch the test. As for taking in a disciple, that is something for the future. Clearly, the two old men scoffed at the idea of these people encircling the Ghost Emperor. However, they were more interested in the test. Tianyu City. On the bustling streets, everyone was discussing the matter of encircling the Ghost Emperor. Therefore, no one saw that at this moment on the street, a young girl in white was coldly glancing at the crowd with her evil eyes. Master! Lin Ruobai blinked her adorable eyes and asked, "Who is the Ghost Emperor they are talking about?" Yun Luofeng lowered his head and gently stroked Lin Ruobai's head. He smiled slightly. "Your Grandmaster." "Oh, then they want to kill Grandmaster. Do I have to go and kill them?" Lin Ruobai said this casually. It was as if killing someone was as simple as drinking water to her. "No need. The most important thing now is to find your Grandmaster. It won't be too late to deal with them then." A cold light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. A murderous intent spread from his eyes. Hong Luan, who was standing at the side, clicked her tongue. "I remember back in the Western continent, this man called the Ghost Emperor was hunted down by many experts of the Western continent because of his wealth. I didn't expect that the same thing would happen again in the Central continent." Hong Luan crossed her arms and smiled. However, the experts of the Central continent are much stronger than those of the Western continent. For example, there are only a few people in the Western continent on the list. In the Central continent, there are countless people on the list. So, Hong Luan paused and continued, "Let Hu Li and Wu stay. It's not safe for them to follow." As for Lin Ruobai, this little girl had an extraordinary power in her body, so she definitely wouldn't have any problems protecting him. "Hong Luan, what do you mean?" Hu Li's expression changed on the spot. "In any case, I've already broken through to Saint Ruler, so I have no problem protecting myself." Hong Luan glanced at him and smirked. "You can protect yourself, but what about this child named Wu?" The boy was clearly afraid of what was going to happen next. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Hu Li helplessly. Hu Li frowned. He now regretted bringing this child along. He was unable to help Yun Luofeng with anything, and instead had to supervise this child all day. "Hu Li, you and Wu stay. Xiao Bai, you stay as well." "Master." Lin Ruobai bit his lip and looked at Yun Luofeng with teary eyes. "I won't drag you down." "I know," Yun Luofeng smiled. "It's just that your soul hasn't fully recovered yet. I can't let you face this kind of battle. Once your body has fully recovered, you can become my greatest support. Do you understand?" Chapter 1373. Lin Ruobai lowered her head. After a long time she looked up and nodded. "I'll listen to you, Master. But Master, you must find Grandmaster as soon as possible." "Oh, I'll wait here for you." She was an obedient child. Since her master had asked her to stay, she would wait for his return. It must be said that the current Lin Ruobai was so obedient that it made one's heart ache for her. Even if she did not want to leave, Yun Luofeng would still listen to her and stay. "Hong Luan, let's go." Yun Luofeng turned around and walked out of the city. Contrary to her wishes, she had just walked to the city gates when she was stopped by two guards. "The city gate will not be open to the public for a few days. Please go back." "What's the reason?" Hong Luan asked coldly as she suppressed her anger. The guards did not even look at her and did not answer her question. Instead, someone beside her reminded her, "Miss, don't you know that the road to Tianyu City has been sealed? If you want to pass through here, you will have to go through the city governor's assessment." "What assessment?" "There are two types of assessment. One is martial arts and the other is medical skills. Anyone who passes the assessment will be able to leave with their team tomorrow. Therefore, you should not force your way out of the city. Otherwise, you will be hunted down by the powerful cultivators of Tianyu City." Hong Luan frowned. She turned to Yun Luofeng and said, "Yun Luofeng, no matter what decision you make, I will support you. If you force your way out of the city, I'm afraid you will not be delayed for just one night. She was confident that she could escape. But what about Hu Li and the others? And Hong Luan? How could she let Hong Luan and the others take the risk with her? Furthermore, even if she chose to force her way out, she would have to face the pursuit of many powerful cultivators. By then, she would not be delayed for just one night. Where will the assessment be held? Yun Luofeng looked at the passerby and asked, Miss, what assessment would you like to take? The martial arts assessment will be held at the battlefield, while the medical assessment will be held at the medical hall. Yun Luofeng, I do not have medical skills, so I choose the battlefield. Hong Luan raised her brows when she heard the passerby's explanation. All right, I will head to the medical hall. After saying this, Yun Luofeng looked at the passerby again. Please lead the way for us. Of course, this passerby was willing to lead the way for the two beauties. He smiled and made a welcoming gesture, then sent Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan to the medical hall and the martial field. At this moment, the medical hall was a boiling cauldron of voices. Countless people stopped in their tracks when faced with the difficult test. Only a few people refused to believe it and insisted on solving this difficult problem. Grandpa Jun and Mudong walked in from the door. Linger followed closely behind Grandpa Jun from the start. The people in the medical hall did not recognize Grandpa Jun, but they knew Mudong's identity. Even the city lord of Tianyue City had to curry favor with him. Therefore, when they saw him, the people in the medical hall immediately went up to him. Old Master Mu, why are you here? Mudong's expression was indifferent. I'm just here to observe your assessment. By the way, I heard that you've come up with an age-old problem for this assessment. Is there anyone who can answer this question? Old Master Mu, you must be joking. How could anyone possibly answer such a difficult question? The city lord's order is that anyone who can answer even the slightest bit of it will pass. Chapter 1374. Mudong nodded his head slightly. He had also heard of this age-old problem. It would be impossible for those people to answer this age-old problem. If it was just a fragment, there might still be hope. Ling-er, Grandpa Jun smiled as he looked at the young girl beside him and said, all these years I have been nurturing your medical skills. As of now, your medical skills have reached the pinnacle of perfection. So, you can take a stroll around this medical hall. A bright smile appeared on Ling-er's face. Grandpa, it is enough for Ling-er to accompany you. Do you dislike Ling-er? Do you not want Ling-er to serve by your side? Haha, Grandpa Jun laughed out loud. You little girl, you sure are weird. You've been accompanying this old man every day. Grandpa is afraid that you'll be too bored. Mudong looked at the old man and the young girl enviously. The jealousy in his eyes was so thick that it could be sliced open. At that moment, a commotion suddenly came from the front. Little girl, do you even know medicine? Your answer has made a mistake. I think you are just pretending to know when you don't. Don't waste time here. Hurry up and give up your position to us. The medical hall steward heard the commotion behind him. He subconsciously wiped away the sweat on his forehead. Lord Mu, I will go and see what is going on. No need. Grandpa Jun raised his hand to stop the medical hall steward. Let's go and take a look. This. The medical hall steward did not recognize Grandpa Jun. He looked at Mudong with an inquiring gaze. Mudong smiled faintly. We will listen to Grandpa Jun. Let's go and see what is going on. There was a sea of people in front. Everyone was gathered around a rectangular table, pointing at it from time to time. In front of the table, a young girl in white held a brush in her hand. Her expression was calm. She did not even think as she quickly wrote on a piece of paper. However, the surrounding people frowned and sneered at the young girl's answer. It was unknown when Grandpa Jun had walked through the crowd and arrived beside the young girl. At that moment, the surrounding noise seemed to have disappeared. He quietly stared at the contents that the young girl had written on the paper. Huh. Suddenly, Grandpa Jun let out a cry of surprise. The combination of the Bienkei's gallbladder and the crane's breath grass can actually paralyze a person's body? This was the first time he had heard of it. Yun Luofeng had clearly noticed Grandpa Jun, who was standing beside her. She gave a rare reply. The Bienkei's gallbladder has the effect of causing paralysis. However, the effect of the crane's breath grass is too strong. The effect of the crane's breath grass is to weaken its effect. Both are indispensable. Once one was missing, the patient would die immediately after taking the flat magpie gallbladder. So that's how it is. Grandpa June suddenly understood and nodded his head. I know quite a number of medicinal herbs that can paralyze a patient's body. However, each of them has a strong side effect. I wonder, what are the side effects of these medicinal herbs? That is why the Heart of Frost has become especially important. Yun Luofeng's hands did not stop moving as he continued to answer Grandpa June's question. When applying paralysis on the patient, you must use the Heart of Frost. Its function is to stabilize the patient's blood flow, preventing the patient's blood from flowing backwards. Grandpa June looked at Yun Luofeng with a serious expression. He had never heard of the things that Yun Luofeng was writing. However, it had opened the door to a new era for him, giving him a feeling of enlightenment. Chapter 1375. Old man, are you stupid? You believe whatever this woman says? The person next to him couldn't stand it anymore. He sneered and said, she's just writing nonsense. How could you be so stupid to believe her words? I don't think you know anything about medicine. Let the patient take BNK bile? What's the difference between that and letting her die? Grandpa June frowned and glanced at the person who had insulted him. BNK's gallbladder is mixed with crane's breath grass. It may really have a paralyzing effect. You have never tried it. How do you know that her method is not feasible? I have not tried it. But the moment I heard it, I knew that it would not work. Could it be that you have tried this method? He sneered again and said mockingly. Linger knitted her cute brows and anger gradually appeared on her face. However, her grandfather did not say anything. She would not act rashly. Thus she continued to stand beside Grandpa June. For this old man, there is no need to try. I can calculate it in my mind. This was the confidence of a strong person. He was no longer like an ordinary doctor. No matter what the result was, he would have to personally test it. But for him, he only needed to calculate it in his mind to know if the conclusion was feasible. Mudong saw that the person was about to say something else. He snorted coldly. This medical hall actually allows anyone to enter, and he still dares to clamor here. Did he not see that the acupuncture technique written by my disciple is the legendary million needles technique? For a doctor, silver needles were the most important item after medicinal herbs. If a doctor did not even know how to perform acupuncture, then he could not be considered a qualified doctor. Thus, while Grandpa June was paying attention to the combination of medicinal herbs, Mudong was paying attention to the set of acupuncture technique, written by Yun Luofeng. The more he read, the more shocked he became. This set of needle techniques was not complete, but he could roughly tell that Yun Luofeng had used the legendary 10,000 needles technique on this question. However, wait a minute. Grandpa June suddenly regained his senses and looked at Mudong. You mean your disciple? Where is your disciple? My new disciple. Mudong pointed at the girl in white. That's her. Fuck. When Grandpa June heard that, he immediately became furious. This is the first time I've seen you act so shamelessly. When did she agree to be your disciple? It turned out that shamelessness was also a realm. Mudong chuckled. In any case, I've taken a fancy to this girl. Just based on this 1,000 needles technique, I can predict that her medical skills are definitely not simple. Grandpa June gave a cold snort. You can see it, but so can I. Let's not talk about whether or not this young lady can solve this age-old problem. Just by looking at the medical knowledge that she has written down, I can tell that her talent is absolutely top-notch. Mudong narrowed his eyes slightly. You already have a disciple and such an obedient granddaughter. How about you give this little girl to me? In this world, who would complain about having too many genius disciples? So why should I give it to you? The two old friends had unexpectedly stood on opposite sides in a single night. It was all for a young girl. Old man June, are you trying to fall out with me? Mudong's face turned ashen. Ignoring their many years of friendship, he gritted his teeth and said, Don't forget, you promised me that you would accompany me here to help me accept a disciple. Now you want to snatch my disciple? Do you still have any face left? Chapter 1376. Mudong, don't call her your disciple. This little girl has yet to acknowledge you as her master. Even if you have no self-respect, You shouldn't say such things at this time. Grandpa June paused for a moment before continuing. Besides, this little girl is indeed fated with me. This kind of thing is also unexpected. Why don't you withdraw from this? I promise I will find you another disciple. These words almost drove Mudong mad. He turned to look at Linger and said, Linger, don't you care about your grandfather? He even wants to snatch my disciple. Grandpa Mu, Linger giggled and said, my grandpa is right. This lady did not acknowledge you as her master, so she is not your disciple. Furthermore, I feel that she will develop better if she follows my grandpa, don't you think so? Mudong's beard trembled and his eyes widened. You two old and young people are working together to anger me. I'm telling you, this girl is mine. Whoever dares to snatch her from me, I will fucking turn against them. The people in the medical hall did not dare to say a word when they saw the two old men fighting. Mudong had some authority in the central continent. They did not know who the white-robed old man was, but to be able to speak to him in such a tone, he must be a big shot. These two people were not people they could afford to offend. Therefore, the people in the medical hall tactfully took a few steps back and made a large space for the two old men. As for the person who had humiliated Grandpa June, when he felt the aura of the two old men, he almost fainted from fright. Fortunately, the person beside him held him up in time, preventing him from falling to the ground. At this time, Yun Luofeng had finished the last stroke of her brush. She turned her head and saw that the old man who had asked her questions was now arguing with the other old man. Her face revealed a puzzled expression. What happened? The two old men saw the girl who had turned around and walked towards Yun Luofeng at the same time. However, when Mudong saw Grandpa June coming forward, he directly squeezed past him. Get out of the way. Don't disturb me and my disciple. Reminisce? Reminisce your sister. You two have only known each other for the first time. Oh, that's not right. I don't even know you. What is there to reminisce about? Get lost. Grandpa June waved his hand and sent a palm strike towards Mudong. Mudong, don't force me to fight you. This time, Grandpa June had even changed the way he addressed himself from old man to old man, showing just how angry he was. Let's fight then. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Your medical skills are indeed better than mine, but in terms of strength, the two of us have always been on par. Mudong snorted and fought back, not to be outdone. Yun Luofeng was a little stunned. She had been too engrossed at the back and did not know what had happened. But, when did he have a master? Don't mind me. Suddenly, a voice that was clear like a bell resounded from Yun Luofeng's side. When she turned her head, a lovely smiling face was reflected in her eyes. The girl's smile was very bright. She had bright eyes and white teeth, and was full of spirit. My grandfather has always been like this. When he and Grandpa Mu are close, they are like real brothers. Once there is a dispute, they immediately become enemies. Linger pursed her lips into a faint smile and blinked her eyes slightly. Grandpa Mu said that you know the 10,000 needle technique. Do you really know the legendary 10,000 needle technique? Yun Luofeng was startled. 10,000 needle technique? Are you talking about the needle technique that I just drew? Yun Luofeng gently stroked her chin. If you are talking about it, then I know it. Chapter 1377. This acupuncture technique was recorded in the Holy Book of Medicine. It was deeply engraved in her mind. Thus she had casually drawn it out. Hearing this, Linger's eyes lit up. Then she extended her hand to Yun Luofeng. Oh yes, my name is June Linger. June. Yun Luofeng was very sensitive to this surname. Thus, she paused for a moment before taking June Linger's hand. Yun Luofeng. On this side, the two old men were fighting fiercely. The sky was dark. Yun Luofeng had just regained his senses when he heard laughter in front of him. No wonder you haven't completed your mission after so long. So you're seducing a girl from a good family. Hong Luan's figure rushed over, her arm hooking around Yun Luofeng's shoulder. She raised her eyebrows slightly, her phoenix eyes landing on Linger. This little girl is very pretty. I like her a lot. Linger seemed to have never seen such a bold woman, especially when this woman teased her in such a domineering manner. She was instantly frightened. She replied weakly, I'm not gay. Pfft. Hong Luan could not help but laugh. Little girl, I'm just joking with you. Of course, if I were a man, I would definitely want to touch you. As a woman, she likes such a pretty little girl. What more a man? Ling'er's face turned red. In her entire life, she had never been teased in such a blatant manner. Moreover, the other party was a woman. Yun Luofeng, your place is very lively. Hong Luan raised an eyebrow and smiled. How was it? Did you pass? Yun Luofeng did not speak and turned to look at the steward of the medical hall. The steward wiped the sweat from his forehead. Passed. Did he not see that Master Mu and his good friend had fought over this girl? How could he say that she had not passed? Even if she had scribbled nonsense, she had to pass. Since you passed, let's go. Hong Luan smiled and hooked her arm around Yun Luofeng's. She did not forget to turn back and pinch Ling'er's fair and soft little face. Little girl, we will meet again. Outside the medical hall, Yun Luofeng stopped in her tracks. She raised an eyebrow at the woman in red and asked, I've known you for so long. I've never seen you interested in anyone. In other words, she was asking Hong Luan why she was so interested in a little girl. This little girl's identity is somewhat special, Hong Luan smiled. If I'm not mistaken, she's the daughter of the Jun family's master. Jun family? Yun Luofeng suddenly remembered that her name was Jun Ling. Could she be from the Jun family of Ling continent? Yun Luofeng. Hong Luan turned her head. The smile on her face gradually disappeared and was replaced by a dignified look. I'm only telling you some things because you're my friend. I don't know why you have the Jun family's jade tablet in your hands, and I don't know if it's good or bad for you. Therefore, before you find out the truth, you can't reveal it, even if it's someone from the Jun family. Hong Luan's expression was very serious. After all, no one knew if Yun Luofeng was really a member of the Jun family. What if? Is she an enemy of the Jun family? I understand. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Even though she planned to seek an answer for Jun Fengling, she did not intend to reveal the jade pendant before finding out the truth. Whether you're a member of the Jun family or not, you're my friend. Hong Luan clenched her fist and hit her chest. I will always stand by your side, and I will never give up. Chapter 1378. What does her status have to do with her? She only approved of this one person. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged. We can leave Tianyue City tomorrow. Hong Luan did not speak. She turned to look in the direction of the medical hall. A cold light flashed across her eyes. If she and her father were wrong and Yun Luofeng was not a member of the Jun family, then she would never let the Jun family hurt her. The medical hall. The two old men finally stopped. They were panting, their foreheads covered in sweat. However, when they turned around, they found that Yun Luofeng had disappeared. Where's my disciple? Mudong was stunned. Gone. Ling'er opened her big bright eyes. I saw that you were too engrossed in the fight just now. I thought that you liked to fight, so I didn't remind you. What? Mudong was stunned and asked hurriedly. Then do you know if she went east or west? West. Ling'er was lying through her teeth. In the hearts of the elders, Ling'er had always been an honest child. Therefore, Mudong did not suspect anything and quickly chased after her. Grandpa, Miss Yun went east. She shouldn't have left for long. Hurry up and chase after her. Don't let Grandpa Mu catch up to her. Grandpa Jun laughed and patted Ling'er's little head. You black-bellied little fox. After I accept this disciple, I will allow you to return home for a few days. Grandpa, Ling'er wants to follow you. Little girl, don't think that I don't know that you have been missing your parents. I have let you down all these years. In a few days, I will let you go back and reunite with them for a while. Thank you, Grandpa. Ling'er's smile was very bright. It shone into Grandpa Jun's heart. But Ling'er's favorite thing is to accompany Grandpa on his travels. Alright, go after Miss Yun first. Otherwise, when Grandpa Mu finds out that he has been tricked, he will definitely head east. Alright, haha. Grandpa Jun laughed out loud. Dressed in a white robe, he quickly disappeared from the medical hall. At that moment, everyone in the medical hall was sweating. No one could have imagined that this innocent little girl would be a swindler. Poor Mudong, who told him not to have such a considerate granddaughter, causing him to be outnumbered. Unfortunately, Ling'er had overestimated Mudong's intelligence. After he searched the entire west side of the city and did not find Yun Luofeng, he suddenly realized that he had been tricked. Thus on that day, the angry roar of the old man resounded through the streets of Tunyu City, lingering for a long time. Jun Lingtian. Jun Linger. You grandfather and grandson actually joined forces to deceive me. Good. Very good. I want to sever all ties with you. Irreconcilable. At the inn, just as Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan stepped inside, Grandpa Jun chased after them. He smiled and blocked Yun Luofeng's path. Miss Yun, your medical skills have amazed me. Would you be willing to be my disciple? Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. A light flashed across them. I already have enough masters. I can't take another one. If you want, we can discuss medical skills. Haha. Grandpa Jun saw that Yun Luofeng did not completely reject him. He laughed heartily. It's fine if you don't want to take me as your master. I see that you are about the same age as my granddaughter. If you don't mind, you can call me Grandpa. Let me have another granddaughter. Chapter 1379. All right. Yun Luofeng smiled. Grandfather. Hearing this form of address, Grandpa Jun felt a little sad for some reason. If this girl was really his granddaughter, he would definitely be overjoyed. Unfortunately, he did not even know if Juner was still alive, nor did he know if she had given birth to a boy or a girl. Hong Luan stood at the side without saying a word. She naturally knew Yun Luofeng's purpose. This old man was a member of the Jun family. If Yun Luofeng wanted to find out more information, he had to make contact with the Jun family. Haha. Grandpa Jun laughed out loud again. His laughter was very hearty. Little girl, if you want, you can leave with me now. No need. Yun Luofeng shook his head. I still have something important to do. Once I'm done, I'll pay you a visit. If that's the case, I won't disturb you anymore. If you need anything, come find me at the Jun family in Ling Continent. Although Grandpa Jun did not manage to accept Yun Luofeng as his disciple, he had obtained a cheap granddaughter. He left very satisfied. Unfortunately, when he returned to the Mu residence, he was greeted by a storm. Jun Lingtian, you shameless villain. Mu Dong's face was ashen. His eyes filled with anger as he glared at Grandpa Jun. I never thought you were this kind of person. I've really misjudged you all these years. Grandpa Jun did not get angry. Instead, he continued to smile. Mu Dong, don't be angry. I did find that little girl. However, she said that she had too many masters and rejected me. Hearing this, Mu Dong felt a little better. Although he was a step too late, Grandpa Jun did not succeed in obtaining this disciple. However, Grandpa Jun changed the topic and continued. This little girl has recognized me as her grandfather. What? Mu Dong was furious. This time he did not waste time talking nonsense with Grandpa Jun. He directly attacked. His sharp aura was like a long sword that suddenly stopped. Boom! Grandpa Jun's body flashed, dodging Mu Dong's attack. However, the ground where he was standing just now had a deep pit. It was obvious how much strength Mu Dong had used. Mu Dong, are you serious? Grandpa Jun did not expect that Mu Dong would actually come for real. His eyes widened as he said, if it weren't for the fact that I feel guilty towards you, I would have already taken action against you. Humph. Mu Dong snorted coldly. Leave. From now on, you're no longer my friend. Who knows, if I continue to have such a deep relationship with Grandpa Jun, I might end up getting snatched away by him. Mu Dong, the two of us have been good friends for many years. Why must we fall out over such a small matter? Grandpa Jun shamelessly walked towards Mu Dong, his aged face filled with smiles. Seeing his infuriating look, Mu Dong wanted to punch him in the face. Of course, he felt that there was no need to fall out. Wasn't it because he had beaten them to it? If he was the one who snatched the little girl first, he reckoned that the old man would start a war with him without a second word. Before I left, I took the question that Yun Lass answered. The two of us can study it and see if her answers are correct. Grandpa Jun naturally knew how to make Mu Tianan loosen up. So he waved his hand and took out a scroll with black and white characters. Chapter 1380. Sure enough, Mu Dong's wrinkled face relaxed for a moment, but quickly tensed up again. Wait until I'm done researching this problem. Then I'll settle the score with you. Don't worry, after I'm done researching this problem, this old man will definitely apologize to you, Grandpa Jun said with a smile. Right now, the most important thing is to find someone to test the method she used. For the people of this foreign world, there were very few people who could solve this problem. However, in China, a successful operation could be done. Of course, someone like Nangong Uni, who also came from China, might not be able to solve this problem. After all, many of the medicinal ingredients in this foreign world in China were different. Even if there were medicinal ingredients with the same name, the medicinal effects might not be the same. The reason why Yun Luofeng was able to write down this heart transplant surgery was because she had cleverly used the knowledge provided by the Divine Book of Medicine and combined it with what she had learned in China to solve this difficult problem. After Mudong heard Grandpa Jun's words, they immediately sent people to find patients with the same problem. Fortunately, although Mudong lived in seclusion, he had countless experts at his service. Thus, it didn't take long for them to find a patient. The treatment process did not allow for a single mistake. Thus, Grandpa Jun and Mudong thoroughly researched the solution and transferred several doctors from the medical hall. Only then did they start using Yun Luofeng's treatment method. However, they did not expect that this treatment would last for 3 days and 3 nights. With Grandpa Jun and Mudong's strength, 3 days and 3 nights of sleepless treatment, coupled with their tense mental state, did not pose much of a problem. However, the people in the medical hall could not bear it and each of them became incomparably weak. Just as they were about to collapse, a maniacal laughter rang out in the sky above the Mu residence. Success, it's really a success. This ancient problem has been solved by the hands of a young girl, ha ha ha. Grandpa Jun laughed loudly. His expression was one of joy, but it was also one of rejoicing. Rejoicing that he had a discerning eye and accepted such a genius granddaughter. Mudong stared blankly for a few seconds, then suddenly rushed towards Grandpa Jun. Before Grandpa Jun could recover from his surprise, Mudong fiercely grabbed him by the neck. "Give me back my disciple! Give me back my disciple!" The doctors who were dozing off suddenly woke up. When they saw Mudong's crazy appearance, they hurriedly ran towards him and pulled his hand. "Old Master Mu, don't be impulsive. Don't be impulsive. Hurry up and let go." Ahem. After Mudong released his grip, Grandpa Jun coughed twice. He was not angered by Mudong's actions and continued to smile. "Mudong, my granddaughter is not your apprentice. Don't try to claim that we are relatives." Mudong gradually calmed down. He took a deep breath and asked, "Does your granddaughter need a grandfather? I can give her all my belongings and let her call me Grandpa. That's enough." Compared to the old urchin's Grandpa Jun, Mudong cherished geniuses even more. In his opinion, all his possessions were merely worldly possessions. If he could exchange all his possessions for such a talented granddaughter, then it would be worth it. "Are you sure?" Grandpa Jun raised his eyebrows. "You have countless treasures in your hands. Even a single medicinal herb is priceless. Are you going to use all your belongings to acknowledge your granddaughter?" Chapter 1381. That's right. As long as she treats me as her granddaughter, I will give her anything. "No, no." Grandpa Jun hurriedly shook his head. "I haven't prepared a gift for my granddaughter. What if you surpass me? I heard that there is a medicinal herb in the Zhongzhou Sea that can greatly increase one's strength. Wait for me to bring that medicinal herb to my cheap granddaughter, then I will bring you to her. Jun Lingtian, I'm telling you, if you don't bring me to that girl, I won't play with you today." Mudong glared angrily at Grandpa Jun. Obviously, if Grandpa Jun rejected him, he would not let this old man off easily. Seeing Mudong on the verge of going crazy, Grandpa Jun finally relented. "Don't forget what you said earlier. You will give her everything you have. If you don't keep your word, I will not bring you to see her." Although he could not give Yun Luofeng a gift now, how could he really refuse to give her so many treasures? Unfortunately, Mudong was ultimately disappointed. When they arrived at the inn, they found out that Yun Luofeng had already left a few days ago. The two old men could only return in disappointment. Grandpa Jun had just stepped out of the inn when a figure landed in front of him. The figure knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Old master, I have finally found you." Grandpa Jun's face immediately turned grim. He said coldly, "I have already said that I will not interfere with the Jun family's matters. Why are you still looking for me?" "Old master, this is a special matter." The guard wiped the sweat off his forehead and said respectfully, "The old master has received a message. It is said that the Lord of the Eastern Continent had personally seen someone carrying a jade pendant. So he is here to inform the June family. After saying this, the guard presented a piece of paper with the image of the jade pendant. Grandpa June's body stiffened. With trembling hands, he took the paper from the guard and slowly unfolded it. All these years he had experienced hope and despair. In the end, he no longer dared to have any hope. Therefore, at this moment his heart was filled with fear from the inside out. He was afraid that this jade pendant was not the one he had placed in his daughter's swaddling clothes. However, the moment he unfolded the paper, tears streamed down his face. His trembling fingers caressed the word June on the jade pendant. That's right, this is the jade pendant I gave to Juner back then. Juner is still alive? She's alive. How many years has it been? How many years had he spent in longing and despair? In fact, he had already given up hope. Who would have thought that he would be able to see this jade pendant in his lifetime? Did the East Continent's continent lord provide Juner's portrait? Or is that her current name? Grandpa Sheng raised his head and asked excitedly. He only said that the other party was a young girl in her 20s. He didn't say anything else. Young girl. Grandpa June was startled. The look of joy on his face became even more intense. Could it be that Juner has already given birth to a daughter? That young lady is Juner's daughter? This is great. This old man has another granddaughter. The pitiful Grandpa June did not know that Yun Luofeng was not June Fengling's daughter, but her daughter-in-law. Congratulations. Even though Mudong was still angry about what had happened before, he still walked forward and patted his old friend on the shoulder. Chapter 1382. No one knew better than him the pain his old friend had gone through all these years. If Juner is still alive in this world, it would be a matter worthy of celebration. Mudong. Grandpa June turned around and looked at Mudong's aged face. Do me a favor and send Linger back to the June family for me. Mudong was stunned. What do you want to do? I want to go to the East Continent and find the Lord of the East Continent to ask about her appearance and name. Grandpa June took a deep breath and said with a determined expression, This time, I will not return to the Ling continent until I find her. All right. Mudong nodded. Leave Linger to me. Go. You've been missing her for so many years. Now that you've finally found out that Juner is still alive, you must not give up. Grandpa June looked at Mudong and patted him on the shoulder. He did not say a word of thanks. There was no need for thanks between the two of them. Then, he turned around and disappeared from the bustling street in his white robes. Go back. Mudong looked at the June family's guard. I will escort Linger home safely. Yes, Lord Mudong. The guard cupped his fists and disappeared into the bustling crowd as well. After passing the trial, Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan followed the crowd and successfully left Tianyu City. However, they did not follow the crowd. After leaving Tianyu City, they separated from the crowd and rushed to the withered dragon town as fast as they could. At this moment, the streets of the quiet withered dragon town were filled with maple leaves. Perhaps it was because everyone knew that there would be a battle in the withered dragon town in the near future. Thus, everyone had left, leaving the entire street desolate and silent. Inside a house, a man sat on the bed. His black robes were open, revealing his strong abdominal muscles. His smooth chest made one want to touch it. This man was very handsome. His paralyzed face was always expressionless, and his cold black eyes were like a deep pool, incomparably deep and serene. Get out. The man's voice was bone-chilling, causing the man in green standing at the door to shiver. He cupped his fists and said, Yes. At this moment, the green-robed man understood that after several days and nights of extraction, the medicinal essence of the Bodhi heart had been refined by his master. Next, he would cut open Bai Su's heart and extract her blood essence. Thinking of this, the green-robed man silently retreated and closed the door for the man. In the room there was a solemn silence. The man flipped his palm and a shining dagger appeared in his hand. He aimed the cold blade at his chest and ruthlessly stabbed it. The intense pain caused him to groan. However, from beginning to end, he didn't even frown, nor did he show any mercy. At this moment, a surprised cry came from outside the door, causing the man's hand to tremble, and he almost lost his grip on the dagger in his hand. Mistress, why are you here? Bang! The room door was suddenly kicked open and Yun Luofeng rushed in from outside. What entered her eyes was the scene of Yun Xiao using a dagger to cut open his chest. This bloody scene caused Yun Luofeng's heart to tremble. She asked in disbelief, "Yun Xiao, what are you doing? Feng, why are you here?" Yun Xiao was slightly shaken. He had already forgotten about his pain and his gaze fell upon the young girl. Chapter 1383. Tell me, what are you doing? Yun Luofeng's voice was filled with uncontrollable anger. You said that you wanted to leave for a while just to hurt yourself? Why didn't you tell me what you wanted to do? Ever since she found out that Yun Xiao had found the heart of Bodhi, she had had a bad premonition. However, she never expected that he would cut open his own chest. But this man, why didn't he tell her anything? Why did he have to bear all of this alone? Yun Luofeng clenched her fists tightly. Her heart felt as if it had been squeezed fiercely by a hand, causing her entire body to tremble in pain. Feng, get out. Yun Xiao frowned slightly. Don't look. Yun Luofeng did not seem to hear Yun Xiao's words and walked towards him. Feng. Yun Xiao clutched the dagger in his hand. I beg you. Get out. Yun Xiao, no matter what it is, we can face it together. Tell me, what do you want to do? Perhaps I can help you. Yun Luofeng's voice trembled as she stared at Yun Xiao's blood-drenched chest. She wanted to do something for him, but she did not know what Yun Xiao's goal was. Master. Little Mo had appeared next to Yun Luofeng at some point. He glanced at Yun Xiao and said, There's a drop of blood in his heart. I believe that his goal is to extract that drop of blood. At first, Little Mo did not sense the blood in Yun Xiao's body. Only when Yun Xiao cut open his chest did he clearly sense it. Yun Luofeng's heart ached. Little Mo, is there any other way? The green-robed man who had been standing guard outside the door walked in again. He looked at Yun Xiao and then at Yun Luofeng. Master's blood was planted by Bai Su and it's a blood curse. This blood curse will make it impossible for him to stay with you forever. If he wants to break the blood curse, there's only one way. Master needs to sleep with another woman. He doesn't want to let you down, so he thought of this method. Yun Xiao's expression was cold and solemn. Even though his voice was incomparably weak, it still carried a sharp aura. Get out. His words were naturally directed at the green-robed man. If it were not for the intense pain in his chest, the green-robed man would not have been able to complete his sentence. However, the green-robed man did not regret his words. Even if he would be thrown back and punished like Lin Qiong, he still had to tell his mistress about his master's actions. He couldn't let his mistress know nothing about his master's sacrifice. Feng, I'll be fine soon, I beg you, don't look. Yun Xiao's dagger was still dripping with fresh blood, but because Yun Luofeng was here, he could not move at all. He could only use that pleading voice to say. However, when he looked at the young girl's face once more, his body suddenly stiffened. You cried. After accompanying the girl for so many years, he had never seen her shed a single tear. But now, because of him, she was crying. Once he thought of this, Yun Xiao's heart was surrounded by self-blame and guilt, to the extent that he forgot the pain in his chest and only cared about the pain in his heart. Her tears were like arrows, enough to pierce through his heart. Xiaomo, it's too late to find the anesthetic ingredients now. Yun Luofeng did not answer Yun Xiao's question and turned towards Xiaomo. So, I need your help. Xiaomo was stunned. Are you planning to use the spiritual energy in the Divine Grimoire space to supply it to Yun Xiao? Master, the Divine Grimoire space is secretly related to you. If you supply too much spiritual energy to others, it will cause the Divine Grimoire space to be damaged and you will die. Chapter 1384. I don't care about that much. Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with determination. This time I must help him. She couldn't let Yun Xiao face everything alone. If she could save him, she wouldn't regret it even if her soul was destroyed, let alone the Divine Grimoire space. All right. Little Mo nodded. No matter what you want to do, I'll accompany you. Little Mo didn't tell Yun Luofeng that once the Divine Grimoire space was damaged, as the guardian spirit of the space, he would also disappear. But he wouldn't stop Yun Luofeng. As long as she wanted to do something, he would support her. Feng Yun Xiao didn't know what Yun Luofeng wanted to do. But when he heard Little Mo's last sentence, he frowned and said, I can solve it myself, you. Shut up. Yun Luofeng glared at him fiercely. I'll settle the score with you later on about what you've hidden from me. Fire, protect me. Xiao Shu, help me tie him up. Little Mo, mobilize the spirit energy in the divine grimoire space to alleviate his pain. Fenger, I'm a man. This pain is nothing. You don't have to risk your life. Yun Xiao insisted on standing up, but in the next second countless vines grew out, instantly tying the man firmly to the bed. If Yun Xiao hadn't cut open his chest at the beginning, he wouldn't have been so helpless that he was tied up by the small tree. The problem was, he never thought that Yun Luofeng would suddenly find him here at this time. Feng! Yun Xiao was anxious. His eyes were bloodshot. Let me go. Yun Xiao, this time I won't let you face it alone. Yun Luofeng smiled. At this moment, her smile was very beautiful, so beautiful that it made people's hearts beat. Compared to death, I'm more afraid of heartache. If this time I really died to save you, then go to the Yellow Springs to find me. I'll wait for you there. I will be waiting for you in the Yellow Springs and blue skies, for all eternity. Yun Xiao suddenly quieted down and no longer resisted violently. If something really happened to Yun Luofeng, then so what if he went to the Yellow Springs with her? If they joined hands, they would also make a name for themselves. At the door, Hong Luan quietly looked at the two people in the room. At this moment, she suddenly understood what true love was. For her, this man would rather dig out his heart and extract his blood than do anything to betray her. Ling Li kept saying that his son was the best man in the world. Then wouldn't Yun Luofeng's husband be the best in the world? How could a person who couldn't even control the lower half of his body compare to someone as infatuated as the Ghost Emperor? However, feelings were mutual. He had given up everything for her, and she was also willing to die for this man. Hong Luan felt a little emotional in her heart. I really wonder who placed a blood curse on the Ghost Emperor. If I find out who it is that wants to ruin such a beautiful couple, I definitely won't let them off. Hong Luan seemed to hear the sound of galloping horses nearby. She gently raised her brows. Looks like those people have caught up to us. Yun Luofeng, stay here and treat your husband. Leave those who have come to disturb us to me. Yun Luofeng was startled. She turned to look at Hong Luan. She muttered to herself for a moment, then nodded and said, Pay attention to your safety. You must live. Currently, the strongest people by her side were Fire and the small tree. However, the two of them were unable to leave, so those experts could only rely on Hong Luan alone. Chapter 1385. You too. Hong Luan glanced at Yun Luofeng before she turned and walked out. The man in green wanted to follow her, but Hong Luan merely glanced at him coldly and said, You are too weak. You should stay. I alone am enough to deal with the rest. Hearing the woman's merciless words, the man in green looked a little embarrassed. He had wanted to say that she was just a middle-stage Saint King, but Hong Luan slammed the door shut with a loud bang. On the street, the hooves of horses galloped in the air. Countless people were riding on horses and riding on flying cranes. There was a sea of people. These people were all above the Saint King level and were so powerful that they were unmatched. Little girl, we are here to find the Ghost Emperor. Hurry up and get out of the way. Maybe we can spare your life. When the experts saw that the person blocking their way was just a little girl at the intermediate Saint King stage, they did not think much of her and did not take her seriously at all. Hong Luan smiled and blocked the door alone. Her red robes fluttered in the wind and she was domineering and arrogant. Today, as long as I, Hong Luan, am alive, none of you can take another step in. Of course, if you want to enter, it is not impossible. You will have to step over my dead body. Ha ha. Hearing the woman in red's domineering voice, a middle-aged man burst into laughter. You? A middle-stage Saint King girl dares to be so arrogant? Fine, we'll kill you first, then we'll kill the Ghost Emperor. In an instant, all the cultivators' auras surged out and charged forward. Hong Luan calmly took out a red box from her space ring. Then, she slowly opened the red box and took out a fruit that was emitting a red glow. Mother, this is something that you left behind for me before you passed away. It can be considered as a protective talisman for me, but I never thought that I would need to use it so soon. Hong Luan curled the corners of her lips. Back then you also left a message for me. Unless it was absolutely necessary, I must not use this thing. But now I must use it no matter what. I am willing to bear the consequences myself. Hong Luan placed the fruit by her mouth. The fruit instantly turned into a ray of light and disappeared into her mouth. At the same time, her strength, which was originally at the middle level of a holy king, instantly rose. High-level Saint King, low-level Saint Venerable, mid-level Saint Venerable, high-level Saint Venerable, and finally Saint Monarch. That's right, her strength had suddenly reached the Saint Monarch realm. What's going on? Why did she suddenly become a saint? Could it be because of the fruit she consumed? A certain expert turned pale with fright and cried out in alarm. No, that's not right. Her strength isn't very stable. It should be a method that can increase her strength in a short period of time. If she can hold on for a while, when the effect of the medicine is over, we can kill her. One of them reacted quickly and said hurriedly. Hong Luan held her sword, her face expressionless. I can deal with all of you within these 2 hours. With this sentence, she had already admitted that there was indeed a time limit for the fruit she consumed. But so what? She would use the fastest speed to deal with this group of people. In reality, the fruit she consumed was cultivated by a Lord Saint 10,000 years ago using his own spiritual qi. Therefore, after consuming it, she would possess the power of a Lord Saint. It was a pity that the sage hadn't grasped the method of using spiritual qi to nourish the medicinal herbs, so this fruit was actually a failure. Not only could it increase his strength for a short period of time, but the consequences were also very serious. Kill! A cultivator waved his hand and instantly, countless people charged towards Hong Luan. Battle cries and screams filled the desolate street. Chapter 1386. At this moment, Hong Luan was like a warrior dressed in red armor with a long sword in his hand. Invincible. Countless killings. Ever since she left the East Continent with Yun Luofeng a few months ago, she had already been prepared to face a strong enemy. Moreover, for Yun Luofeng, even if she had to bear the consequences of raising her strength, she would not regret it. Inside the room, Yun Luofeng, who was wholeheartedly digging out Yun Zhao's heart to extract blood, did not know what was happening outside the room, but she believed in Hong Luan. She believed that she could definitely block those people. Yun Zhao's gaze had always been on Yun Luofeng. Perhaps it was because little Mo was constantly providing him with spirit energy from the divine grimoire space, but he did not feel too much pain. Even so, it was still a little painful. Therefore, Yun Zhao's gaze slowly shifted to Yun Luofeng's body, the scene of him and the girl in front of him reverberating in his mind, to divert his attention. Master! Cold sweat dripped down little Mo's forehead. His little face was a little pale as he turned to Yun Luofeng. Although there is too much spirit energy in the divine grimoire space, and I even said that the space can provide you with unlimited spirit energy, but, in fact, the spirit energy in the divine grimoire space can be used up. I can already feel that the consumption this time is too great, and the divine grimoire space will not be able to hold on any longer. Yun Luofeng did not even frown. Continue to hold on. All right. Little Mo did not speak anymore. He transferred the spirit energy from his hand into Yun Zhao's body to relieve the pain of his heart being dug out. Fenger enough? Yun Zhao frowned slightly. I can bear with it for now, let little Mo stop first. If you don't want me to use up too much energy, then shut up. Yun Luofeng said fiercely. When she thought about how Yun Zhao had hidden such an important matter from her, she shouted angrily with a bad expression on her face. Yun Zhao looked at little Mo, whose body was already beginning to sway, and his heart suddenly tightened. His hands that were placed on both sides of his body also clenched tightly into fists. The little tree looked at Yun Luofeng, then looked at the pale little Mo. He raised his hand to scratch his butt, and then he took out a chrysanthemum flower from his pocket. That's right, it was indeed a yellow and tender chrysanthemum. Fire looked at the small tree speechlessly. This guy's pocket was 100 treasures bag? Why does it have everything? After the little tree took out the chrysanthemum flower, he commanded the vines to bind Yun Zhao tightly before returning to the divine grimoire space. The space of the divine grimoire, which had originally been rich in spiritual qi, now seemed very bleak. The medicinal herbs that had been picked and planted in the medicinal field had all withered, falling with the wind. As soon as it saw its food in this state, the small tree immediately became angry. It was so angry that its hair stood up and its eyes turned red. If the divine grimoire space was a person, the little tree would have beaten him up immediately. However, the little tree could not hit the divine grimoire space, so he could only think of a way to save the space that was on the verge of collapse. Most importantly, he had to save his own food. Therefore, the small tree found a good spot in the field and planted the little chrysanthemum that he had taken out from the soil. When the little tender chrysanthemum began to grow, he clapped his hands and nodded in satisfaction. The collapse of the divine grimoire space was a small matter, but losing his rations was a huge matter. How could he bear to go hungry? However, the speed of the little chrysanthemum's growth was a bit slow. The small tree was very unwilling. He untied his pants and began to pee on the little chrysanthemum. Chapter 1387. Not long after, the little chrysanthemum began to grow rapidly, growing into a chrysanthemum flower that was even taller than the tree. In reality, this was just a seed that looked like a chrysanthemum flower. The little tree was using it to save the grimoire space. Oh no, it was using it to save his own food. As for why it looked like a chrysanthemum, the little tree had no idea. Inside the house, little Mo and Yun Luofeng did not notice the little tree leaving, nor were they in the mood to pay attention to what was happening in the grimoire space. Therefore, they did not know that there was a chrysanthemum flower growing strong in the space. Master, I can't hold on much longer. The grimoire space cannot hold on much longer. Little Mo looked at Yun Luofeng with a pale face. If you don't cure Yun Xiao, the space will collapse soon. Usually Yun Luofeng only used a trace of the spiritual power of the space, as if he was slowly tasting tea. Now he was drinking it like drinking water. No matter how big the kettle was, it would not be able to withstand such drinking. Little Mo, I will succeed soon. Hold on for a little longer. At this point, Yun Luofeng was not willing to give up. Even if she gave up her life, she was not willing to let Yun Xiao endure that kind of pain. Little Mo's body swayed a little. He looked at Yun Luofeng, his bright eyes gradually showing a touch of determination. Master, do you remember the identity I mentioned to you? Little Mo smiled. My body is formed from the spiritual energy of the grimoire space. Now that a large amount of the spiritual energy of the grimoire space has been consumed by me, if this continues, you will definitely die. But he raised his head, his eyes bright. Since my body is formed from the spiritual energy of the space, I can also turn myself into that spiritual energy and relieve Yun Xiao's pain. Little Mo. Yun Luofeng's heart suddenly tightened. The space should be able to hold on for a little longer. Didn't you say before that the spiritual energy of the grimoire space is inexhaustible? Even if it's not as exaggerated as you said, it should be able to hold on for a little longer. Little Mo shook his head. As the guardian spirit of the space, no one knows the extent of the spiritual energy of the grimoire space better than I do. I cannot use it anymore. At least, I cannot let you die. Once the space collapsed, both of them would die. In that case, it would be better for him to leave alone. He was originally a lifeless existence. It was the divine grimoire space that gave him consciousness, and he got to know Master and Whitey. Little Mo did not understand why he would think of that silly girl at this time. Little Mo. Yun Luofeng's expression suddenly changed. I don't want Yun Xiao to suffer and I don't want you to leave. So don't do anything stupid. Master, in this life, I'm already satisfied to have known you. Oh yes, remember to tell Xiao by that if I can reincarnate like a human, I want to marry her in my next life. But he knew that this was merely wishful thinking. He was merely a spirit without life or soul, so how could he reincarnate? If he disappeared, he would no longer exist in this world. Fenger. Yun Xiao saw that Xiao Mo was about to sacrifice himself. He raised his hand and held Yun Luofeng's hand. You have done enough. Rather than letting him disappear, I am willing to endure the pain. How could Yun Xiao not understand the importance of Xiao Mo to her? If little Mo really lost her life because of this, she would be in pain for the rest of her life.